What's up, everyone? Make sure you check out the WESWES Network website at weswesnet.com. Here you can find amazing independent podcasts based in Aotearoa, covering everything from pop culture to mental health. Also, if you enjoy our content and want to support us, please consider clicking on the support button on the homepage of the website. We appreciate your patronage and look forward to delivering more thought-provoking and quality conversations.
WESWES, y'all.
Back in the studio.
So this is the third time in the studio, and probably the third iteration of the studio as well.
Yeah. Am I, and I'm hoping I'm correct, am I the most featured guest on 135?
There's not many been on 3 times on 1 through 5, and you're one of them. I know Joey has been 3 times, yeah.
Damn it.
Joey.
I need to be the most featured. I came here thinking like, oh no, third time. Nah, I must be the only one. No, but it's always good to be back.
Yeah.
It's always good to be back.
It's always good to have you back, you know? Like, you only live up the road, so.
Yeah, it makes it so easy. When you reached out, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm in. Of course I'm in.
It was funny when I reached out to you on the chat because, man, I just finished the podcast with the guys from the Eggplant Boys, and I had I had such a good time on that one that I couldn't sleep like afterwards, and I was thinking, man, I want to do another one tomorrow. That's why I did the text. Like, you don't want to come on because I'm in the mood, man.
Well, you made it blatantly obvious. Man, I just need to do a podcast tonight. No, tomorrow then. Fine, tomorrow. If I wasn't already like laxing out of this, like fuck yeah, tonight. Yeah. I'm down. You don't mind if I come in my pajamas though, right? Start a new segment, the Pajama Boys.
Pajama Boys, yeah, that'll be an interesting podcast. But man, I don't know. I don't want to say that I'm addicted. Maybe I am, but man, I had some adrenaline rush, like a hunger to talk to people. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the list of things for me to listen to. Your latest one because you really hyped up how well it went, and I think it's scintillating conversations. You know, I think that's what really drives that sort of hunger. And if you're having a really good conversation, like, of course, you want to do it again and you want to try to get that high back. And if you're laughing and having a good time and learning shit, of course, man, I can imagine. Which makes me really want to fucking listen to it now, too. Damn.
Well, those 3 things you said, learning and having a good conversation, laughing, that was exactly what happened. And I think it's cool because actually I fed off the guests as well. And that's a good feeling when you do that, because you probably had that feelings too when you were having your Thought Plantation podcast back in the day with your guests.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it really put me in a position where I was like, fuck, this person knows a fuck ton. And it wasn't like an intimidating kind of like, man, he knows so much. It was more like an exciting, I want to know more. You know, whatever this guy's talking about, whatever this girl was talking about, it was so interesting that it just drove the conversation. And that's how you end up with like 3 hours worth of content, you know? And you're like, and you know, what we used to talk about in the back in the day was like, you know, if your conversation goes for like 3 hours, but it feels like 5, then you know you've had a really good session. Yeah. You know, and I've been lucky enough to have a lot of those, you know, during that time when I was running the Thought Plantation podcast. You know, because there's nothing worth just trying to carry a conversation, You know?
It's cool. And you know, like when you said about 3 hour long podcast, like sometimes that's a result of the conversation itself, like in terms of like where it goes. I mean, of course, as a host, you wanna talk to your guests, you wanna learn from your guests. You probably have some topics in your mind where you want to get to, but sometimes it doesn't come on until later on in the podcast episode. Like you might start off with a topic in the beginning that's just totally random, and then 40 minutes later, close to an hour later, you end up somewhere you haven't even gone to where you wanted to go in the first place before. And that's the best thing about having a conversation. Like you don't know where it's gonna go. You know.
I love that. What I've noticed about my conversations, it always ends up political. Like, it always ends up with, so who are you voting for in the next upcoming elections, the local and the national elections? You know, because I want to find out if I need to hate you or not. You know,
Oh well, you're a pretty political guy. You know, you're interested in that sort of thing.
yes, I don't see. I don't want to call myself political because I don't think I know enough about people's policies to be political. Like my views have always been about how I live my life and how whatever is happening in the world is impacting me. And I like to have someone to blame, so it's easiest to blame the government
Yeah.
for all my problems. But like I think it's something that people find sensitive a lot of the time. Like if you go up to someone you kind of don't really know well, you can't really like. So what's your political views? What's your views on abortion? What's your views on women's rights? Like that's not a great conversation starter. But I think it's important conversations to have. And I think in the more casual way, it should be a common thing to be discussing. As opposed to be shamed into like not wanting to discuss or it's super private. Because when people say it's private, it makes me very suspicious.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
are you a racist? Is that a reason why you don't want to share your political views with me?
I shouldn't say you're a political guy. I should say you're interested in politics.
Yeah, I think that's
You're
a more
interested
accurate.
in politics. Have you always been interested in politics as a kid, or is it something that grew when you started to have a family and started working and started to look at issues around society and that?
I think if I had to really think about it, the short answer is no. I've not always been interested in politics, and even now, it's not really like I talk about politics every single day. I think if the conversation comes up, I'm able to talk about my own things. But no, I think I started thinking more about it when I started working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I remember looking at my paycheck and be like, what the fuck is all this taxes going? And that kind of was just like that was a downward spiral of me becoming a far right activist. No, it just made me realize like, oh shit, how does our country work and how does the world work? More of just like a casual kind of thought exercise for myself. I wouldn't be able to stand any chance of like a political debate or something. Like I've got like beliefs on how I think things should be running. But if I had to sort of sit down and have a proper political debate, I'd get smoked easy. And I'm open to sort of talking about why some of the things I believe may not be correct or may not be good. But I think a lot of people, well, for me in particular, I think my views go with I want people to be well and happy and independent. I mean, how we get there, I have no fucking clue. More money, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Just give me more money, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about when you said you started working and thought about politics more. Yeah, I think same for me. I never. I mean, growing up, going through university and that, never was a politics kind of guy. And like, who cares about them, until I don't know, until it directly affects you, maybe. But you sort of feel that when you start looking at the text, where that's going, and like, but then for me anyway, like just getting into talkback radio and listening to what's happening and political stuff, like knowing what the government's up to, and then getting to know what how families are placed in New Zealand and what happens to us and blah blah blah, all that stuff. What happens to the healthcare, when it gets into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Especially when you have kids,
Oh, absolutely. I think what it shows is that it's so intertwined with our everyday life that maybe we don't realize it as much until we have a sit down and start talking about it. Because the government has almost every aspect of your life covered. Not in a good way, but like they probably could access and control. Oh, fuck, I'm starting to sound like a conspiracy theorist. No, not control in the sense, but they have access to a majority of how we live our life in terms of I mean, whatever the government decides impacts you, whether you're pro-government, anti-government, whatever. So and I think if the more we don't talk about it, the more we just allow things to kind of happen. Like I'm not an activist, right? I'm not going to go out there and with a massive sign, saying fuck you, government. Maybe one day if I was, if there was an issue strong enough, But I think it's a shame that maybe especially islanders, because I don't really hear a lot of islanders talk about political issues. Is that we're probably the most reliant on the government. So we should be having an opinion and just kind of not really just accepting for things the way that they are, just because it's been that way for years.
Do you feel like, because I feel like being Pacifica, we're more inclined to do what the government tells us to do, because we're that kind of people sort of thing.
Well,
especially when
culturally.
we have our own Pacifica political leaders out there, like someone that can stand up for us. So we bow down to everything they do, and we'll just have your back. Whatever you think is right, we'll go, because we can't navigate that world ourselves.
I think I would like to believe there's a shift in that. I think there's more and more we see Pacifica people stand up and try take the reins from people who've been running it for years. Because I haven't seen any significant improvement in ourselves over the years. And I hope. Look, I hope at some point it becomes so common that we have more and more Pacifica people interested in politics and pushing for politics. Whether you're left or right leaning. I think the more of us in there, the more we get our opinions part of how policies are made. Because fuck, aren't we getting fucked every year? Aren't we? As a people. COVID. Just beneficiary shit. 501s. Like you look at kind of like the worst stats, it's usually a brown person that's representing it, which is terrible, and it's not a good image you want to sort of put forward for your children to see, out there in the world, that everything bad is usually perpetrated by a brown person. It's not the case, obviously, but in terms of how it's politicized, and I guess in how it's kind of shown to the public, I would say majority would look Islander. I mean, look at Police 10-7, Have you seen this man? He's brown, 6'2", afro, goes by the name Sione. It's like, did he just name half of South Auckland? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this guy up to?
Well, see, all that's coming to a halt now with what Festival today, when he complained about that, about the Police 10-7 stuff. Now, I think they changed the show and all that, but
yeah. I mean, I don't really watch Police 10-7, but when I do, I mean, it's interesting to watch just to see what's happening out there. I don't think it's a proper representation of what actually happens as a whole, but I mean, look, the difficulty thing is, not that I have stats in front of me, but I can imagine, in South Auckland or in West Auckland, where there's a large population of brown people. I would say maybe this is controversial, but statistically, we do commit a lot of the crimes. Now, that's not. No, the issue is not them committing the crimes. Obviously, there's a long line before that on how they ended up in that situation. That's probably more important than the end result. But I mean, if that's what's happening, and they're finding it harder to find any other ethnicity to sort of put up there, then that says something. And maybe that's something that we need to look at as a people and have a hard look at ourselves and be like, nah, we are kind of fucking up in this aspect, Maybe we need to start improving that, changing that. Now, don't ask me how we do that, because I have no fucking clue.
Yeah,
no clue.
I think about those same things, and I think about why are brown people always under that umbrella? Why are they always under poverty? Why are they always under social welfare dependency, and why is that a problem all the time? Like, why doesn't it change? And I think about these things, and how do we get across the line? What's the thing? Because it seems like that line avoids us, or it's there, but no one tells us where it is.
Do you think with all of that, because all of that is true, right? In terms of like one of the worst statistics in almost every measurement, Maori Pacificas tend to fall within that. Do you think that's because we have people in government that don't give a shit? Or do you think it's a generational kind of thing where we just haven't, the colonialism, sorry, Jesus, the beer's just running through me. Is it, and that's the questions I usually have, because I don't think it's like one particular thing, right? I don't think it's like, oh no, it's just racist cops or racist politicians. I think there's aspects of that for sure. but I think it's so complex and multifaceted that that's probably why it's so hard to overcome. Because you can say, look, let's deal with let's switch up the way that we police, low socioeconomic areas. Let's deal with that and make it less quote unquote racist, right? But then we still have, people in power that that don't actually, follow through with some of the campaign promises that they've done. We look at racism. It happens all over the place. That's still an aspect. I think if we were going to fix something, it'll have to be a fucking massive overhaul of everything, fucking everything, and that's not going to happen. I don't see that happening at any point in time, unless we just fucking burn everything to the ground in anarchy all over the place and start again. I don't think that's going to happen.
I've heard both arguments on the colonization thing. Like you got the old thing where it's when you blame colonization for why we're down, you blame the white people for
for all your problems,
for all our problems, and
Yeah.
so we won't do anything about it. And then it's the argument of don't stop blaming it on colonization. Do something about it. Play by their rules. You can get out of it. Just play by their rules. Don't use that excuse anymore. I've heard both.
Yeah. No, I like I said, it goes back to what I said. I think it's a combination of it all. I think colonization played a very big part, and there is a responsibility. That's a argument in itself, a different argument in itself, where there is a responsibility. And I don't know whose responsibility it is, but it's someone's responsibility to help manage and fix those generational issues that was caused by colonization. On the other hand, you also need to be able to realize that the government is not going to fucking fix all your problems. If that's the group that we've designated to fix colonization, right? Which actually kind of makes sense. It may have to be the government that fixes the issues, related to colonization. But there has to be an aspect of the person being willing to fucking do shit to improve themselves as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and that's what I believe. I believe, because I talked about hearing both sides of it, and to blame others on your predicament, no matter what it is, like to get yourself out of that rut and move up the ladder. Like, how do we incentivize that to people that are, trying, for example, getting out of that welfare dependency? How do you get out of that?
At the moment, you can't, because if you look at the way that the benefit system is structured, the more you try to become more independent, the less help you get, right? This is not my argument. This is I can't remember at the top of my head whose argument this is, but it made total sense when I heard from it. The argument basically is that it should be flipped. So we should be incentivizing people in terms of getting independent. So you shouldn't get more money because of how difficult it is you are living your life. You should be getting more money for every improvement, every step that you take forward to becoming independent. Like that's a way to incentivize people changing. Because what
reward hard work.
Yeah, reward hard work. Because at the moment, the way that anyone who's been on the benefit can attest to this is like, the more hardship you're in, the more you get. So why the fuck would you want to say like, oh, I'm no longer in hardship anymore, give me less money? It's at the end of the day, people want to survive, right? And if being on the benefit is all that you've ever known, and you're not given the opportunities or the skills to sort of become independent, why would you change? If that's your worldview and generationally it's been that way. And look, talk about colonization, how people ended in that situation. Yes, we can acknowledge all of that. But talk about the here and now, we need to, and like you said, it needs to be incentivized on improving yourself, self-improvement, because that's way more fucking harder than sort of just accepting and blaming everything on external factors, It's much more easier to blame your problems like, oh, I'm in this situation because of colonization. I'm in this situation because of the white man. Like, yeah, I think it triggered a lot of the shit to where we are today, but there's a lot of people out there that, regardless of all that shit, have fucking improved and managed to, gain leaps and bounds in the political sphere, in the business place, in entertainment, So it's not like, and I don't want to see those guys as the exception, you know? Like, and I think a lot of people have that view. It's like, oh, you know, that guy, he's an exception. He had amazing talent, you know, he had this and that and this. I think they should be looked at as a standard. You know, look at that guy who's doing ridiculously fucking well. He looks like me. I want to be like that. Like that, we should be like praising these people, you know, for the hard work that they put in and how successful they've become, as opposed to being fucking haters. But like, oh, who's that fucking asshole? Like, who does he think he is? He's forgotten where he's come from. Like, no, the reason he's successful is because he remembers fucking well where he comes from, which is hardship and poverty. Poverty, not poverty, you know? If that doesn't want to drive you into being a better person, then you have very little hope, I think, you know? If you're not willing to learn from past mistakes, your mistakes, your parents' mistakes, you know, your people's mistakes, like don't talk to me. You know, don't tell me how hard life is, because we already know how hard life is, you know. But what are you doing about it? You know, what are you doing about it? That should be the real question. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly one of the ways you have a brown face out there that's doing well. Set example for everyone. You know, someone to, you know, that we can look up to. Like, they're doing well, probably do the same thing. We'll follow.
And not as a Jesus figure. Like,
No.
like, holy fuck, it's John Bulu. He is the, you know, holy shit. Look, he is a perfect example of someone who we should look at and be like, that should be a normal thing. We should normalize seeing people like him on the big stage, you know, on TV and things like that. Because we look at Balangis, right? And we see them on TV. We don't give a second thought about it. It's normal. It's normal seeing that. But when we see like an island, it's like, oh shit, a brown guy. Oh shit. Like, we should just normalize that. Because if you normalize that shit, people will start thinking, no, I can do that. Because it's normal. There's no reason why I can't end up like that. Well, as if you view it as like a put them on a pedestal. You know, it's like, you know, when the bad thing about putting something on a pedestal is that it almost looks unattainable to a certain degree. You know, so look, it's a long way to go, man. I think we have a long way to go, and I think we need. It's almost going to be like a generational thing. Like, there needs to be generational changes over many, many years, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of the only way that I can see it happening.
Yeah. I guess there has been a little shift of seeing more brown faces on TV, more brown faces in certain places that you never seen them there before, and that's where this sense of for diversity is coming in now, which I think is you got to be careful around the whole diversity thing, because sometimes there's a hidden agenda with that.
I don't think it's that hidden. I think it's quite open. Like, ladies and gentlemen, we have a quota for brown people, and it is our job to meet that quota so that we feel good about ourselves. I think that's bullshit, man. Like, not that diversity is bullshit, but I think the way that they're going about it is bullshit. Quotas, nah, it's bullshit. So there's two arguments to that, right? So there's one, how do we? The premise is, how do we get people like, you know, like Pacific Islanders, Maori into positions of power where they can actually enact real change. Like, oh, I know, one of the arguments is, let's have a quota of people that they have to meet this criteria, which is brown, you know. Don't really care about their qualifications, don't really care about their experience, you know. We need a brown person in there. And that's a massive shame, you know, because that sets them up to fail more often than not, you know. Or do we do it this way, where we fucking focus on getting people from the ground up, you know, in terms of education, from the schools all the way to university, and the encouragement that we need to be giving people where they naturally, which we do have the ability to, we are fucking smart motherfuckers, man. We have the ability to fucking get out there and fucking grab it ourselves, you know, not given to us with, you know, with this kind of view that, oh no, you know, you guys have been oppressed all your lives. Here you go, take this. To me, that's quite that's
racist in itself.
Yeah,
more or less.
Yeah, because that shows that they think that we are less than them, that we cannot compete on their level, you know. And I think I will say that we are handicapped in the sense that we are not afforded the same, is a buzzword, privileges that most of them do. But then that's for us to have a look at ourselves and change what we can change, you know, which is pushing for education, pushing for improvements, encouraging people to start businesses and not be fucking haters. Because I do believe, like, some people think that I'm very, very anti-Pacific Islander for some reason, just because I say, things like, because I criticize some of the cultural norms that we have, and I think that's stupid, because I am fucking pro brown people, but what I'm not pro of is if things given to us that's undeserved, and because it shows me that we are willing to take the scraps from the table, from the powers that apparently are oppressing us, and we are taking it eagerly, just because we get like, oh look, I get a seat at the table, not at the table though, but like, just down at the end of the table, but it's at the table, and that's how people rationalize it. It's like, oh, I'm at the table, like. And again, like, I'm not crapping on the people that actually do manage to get there, but I think proper impact, and getting people in there that are willing to fucking just take it to them and not be like, because if you're given something, you have this sense of, I was given something that I really like, I better not fucking fuck this up, Well, as someone who's fucking done the yards and got in there because of their own fucking sweat and tears, will be willing to fuck shit up, man. Be willing to sort of try and get things moving, and that's in any business and in any sort of organization, But yeah, whether it actually comes through or not, I'm not sure. So just to repeat, I love brown people. Most of my friends are brown people. Okay, I've got brown friends. My parents are brown. So I don't hate brown people. I think I just get very disheartened when I see things like that.
If I think about it, if I think about you, what you've just said about yourself, I think people just look up to you. They look up to you being brown for having your kind of views, which is not really what the majority of us would have the same views on. That you see through what they give us. Because we talked about having a seat at the table, but what I think is that, well, what if they just gave us a fake table, and we sit on it and think, man, we're on the table, but nah, they gave us we're not on the actual table,
a token table.
They just gave us a table to sit on, and we were fighting amongst ourselves. And that example I'm just giving you right now, that's the example of this whole Pacifica thing. They have the awards, Pacifica Awards, or business awards and stuff like that. That's a table they've given us, and you guys can sit on that table. You can do whatever you want on that table.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because I view it that way too, but I know a lot of people that are very very fucking almost militant in protecting that. This is our space. This is us to show off Pacifica talent. This is us to sort of show Pacifica stories. And look, I get it. We probably have had years and years and years of not having our stories told and not having a platform. So I get it. Trust me, I get it. But then again, like the point you're making, you're still segregated. You're still in your own little fucking box. You're still kind of like, ooh, we're showing this Pacifica only, thing amongst the Pacifica people. It's like, what about the rest of the fucking world? Like, do we not deserve to have a fucking platform that caters to everyone? Why do we have to be singled out as Pacifica? Why can't we be singled out as just a people? You don't have the white awards. Like, look, it's already been brought up. These things have already been brought up. I'm just reiterating what people have probably heard. But you know what? But because they've normalized it, that's the power that they have. They've normalized white culture. Fuck, that sounds so bad. I don't like saying white culture, but the accepted culture is mostly white, and that's the standard at the moment. So my hope or my thing is that I want us to be the standard too. Look, diversity is all about accepting everyone, and that is including white people, folks. Not just the brown people and the Asians and the Indians. It's fucking everyone, and we need to be aware that I think a lot. Okay, let me just trying to get my train of thought here. So a lot of people think that the only way for us to succeed is to fucking smash every white thing, every European thing, Western European thing. We need to smash it down to allow us to sort of succeed. I don't believe in that. I believe that we can work together and actually we can grow together. We're not going to integrate with them. We're going to create something absolutely new. That's not really Western European, that's not really Pacifica, but something that's a hybrid of both. That's what I want to happen, where we acknowledge our best qualities. Our cultural differences is not really a difference, but it's what makes us unique. But at the same time, we're bringing something amazing to the table, and that's as a whole, and it's. And people think like, oh, we need to fight the white people and stop them and hold them back so that we can get ahead. I was like, motherfucker, these people are not going to stop for you. Who do you think you think these people are going to be like, oh, yes, I'm going to, no longer work and succeed just so that you guys, it's not going to fucking happen. That's when when you hear people that are not Pacific Islander and are very vocal about, like prejudices and their privilege. Like, look, I'm a privileged white person, so I recognize my privilege. That doesn't do shit. You recognizing privilege doesn't do jack fucking shit. That makes you feel good that you've acknowledged something that that in their own words are undeserved. And if they were true to their word and true to their acknowledgement of their privilege, they would step the fuck back and allow someone who's less privileged than them to step into that role. But they're not going to do that because they're human beings at the end of the day. People want to fucking survive. People want to succeed in life, And I think once the world probably gets their head around that, that we're all trying to fucking survive here and we need to find some way to coexist, not one over the other, we're not really going to get anywhere. Because like I said, the people who, I keep saying white people. I don't want. We need to come up with another word because that's like saying the N word. Because it's used in such a derogatory form. And I love white people. I've got a lot of white friends. But I think
I do it in jest when I say white people because I know.
Oh yeah, no,
like a joke. Like
yeah, I don't know what else to say.
What else
Caucasians of the European ethnicity. I mean,
I love putting white people down because I know it's just not gonna scratch the surface.
No, well, it's funny. I think. If you're doing it as a comedic way, I think it's fine. But like, I'm saying it because like the more that I talk about it, it's more like I'm saying white people, fucking white people. But that's not what I'm trying to do. People are gonna fight for their place in this world, whether you're white, brown, Asian. People are gonna fight. So thinking that we're going to, and you can't. I guess the point of my long-winded bullshit explanation of my sort of view on this thing is that I don't think you can solve oppression by oppressing. I don't think that works. You can't oppress someone just because you've been oppressed and then like, oh, what's going to make things better? Let's oppress them and let's fucking do what they did to us.
Well, I don't think competition is oppression. Like, I believe in I believe in competition, and I believe if you're more qualified than the next person, you deserve it. You're better than the next person in terms of skill level, whatever it is. I don't care. You should be there, and that's incentive for the person below you. Because you set the standard, the person below you has to
up the standard.
Yeah. And that's how society gets better.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. No, but competition is definitely different than oppression. But that's the view a lot of people take is that we need to hold these people back. And people use have you heard that analogy of like a race, right? So they talk about like, let's say there's two people in the race. One is the brown people, the other one is the white. The white person has a 5-minute head start, and after that 5 minutes, now the brown people start, and then that's how they use that analogy to show that how disadvantaged we are, and it kind of makes sense, like look how disadvantaged we are. We're 5 minutes behind in this race, it's going to take a lot of effort to sort of get there, to find equality, equity, whatever you guys want to call it.
Well, that's because our grandparents or parents moved to this country and started from scratch, where the Balinese came from back in England, coming over here, colonized it, and already a head start of everyone.
but I
if
look at
if we were to go back to the islands, well, we're way ahead of anyone because we know how to live off the land, all that kind of stuff.
I don't know about that, my friend. Have you gone back to the islands lately? It's getting taken over by the Asians. Those are the people we really need to be careful of.
All the sea levels.
Yeah. No, but I don't mean that seriously. No, but like what I was gonna say is I view it differently, right? I view it as yes, the Palangis have historically had a massive head start, you know, but I look at it as like, but we're moving forward too. We're pushing forward. Yeah. Of course, we can identify why we're not equal at this point in time and why we're disadvantaged. But isn't it fucking amazing that we are catching up? That we are fucking pushing and pushing, regardless of all that shit. That we are pushing forward and forward and forward. You know, that's how I look at it. It's like the worst thing is that if we hadn't even crossed the starting point, you know, if we're still fucking there, yeah, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you know, the white race is running forward, but. Like, I find that so amazing that regardless of all the bullshit that we've listed off earlier in the podcast, we are fucking moving forward, you know? So you need to acknowledge that, you know?
I think the reasons why is because of technology. Technology is changing, and because technology is just starting out, you know, it's always changing. So you can't really take a course on it because once you finish the course in a year, it's gonna be changed. So you're always ahead of the game, and I think technology has allowed the starting point to come back.
Yeah, it's equalized things.
Yeah,
right. It's equalized things. It's not equalized things, but it's making things more equal. You know, because nothing's ever 100% equal. But technology is a fickle fucking thing, though, isn't it? Like, yeah, it could bring us up and make us, you know, a little bit more competitive. But if I put on my oppression hat, doesn't that just give, you know, the people who are privileged more access and more opportunities to go further ahead? You know, so
well, if we were to concentrate our kids to do IT, you know, get into that field early when their kids in school, maybe one day they'll grow up and be the engineers to start new technologies. Or, you know, I don't know.
I think
that's what I mean about the starting points move back.
Yeah.
Because now we can hook on to the new starting line.
We started at the same time, right? With that,
Yeah.
no, that's true. But I guess the just to play the devil's advocate, which tends to be my favorite position to play, I think regardless of that, we have to remember that if you compared a private school that sinks thousands and thousands of dollars, even tens of thousands of dollars per year for that student, let's not put a race on him. You know, let's fucking throw a race out the fucking door. He's a person. And he has access to the best teachers, the best subjects, you know, lecturers that probably help them think outside the box, which is very important, you know. People actually care, you know. Most likely parents, because, you know, if you're going to send your kid there, you obviously care about fucking education. No one's going to spend tens of thousands of fucking dollars because they don't give a shit. They care, you know. Oh,
wait, but, you know, diversity would have screwed that up.
No, we're not talking.
He won't get the best teachers in.
But listen, we've thrown race out the window. Remember, right? This
is
because I'm trying to make a point. Right?
Yeah.
Is that look, that person has privileges because he's gone to a better school, and it's just that is just the reality. Better schools will offer better education, and people who come out of better schools are reasonably more educated and more well-rounded in terms of academics. Let's academics. As compared to a school that has, like a public school, right, that has burnt out teachers, you know, students whose parents probably don't really care too much about education, standardized subjects, maths, blah, 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 and teaching within the confines of a textbook. So look, we have these two individuals. They both go to university and they both do the same topic. Who do you think is most likely to succeed?
The guy that went to Auckland Grammar.
I went to Auckland Grammar. Yeah. So yes, you are correct, sir. Well, yeah, because it just makes sense. That person had a much more solid foundation and prepped them to run and do those courses. And you can talk about technology in particular. So I get the point you're making in terms of, look, like technology is new. It gives us an opportunity to start at the same starting point of these guys. And that may be true, but there are privileges that the people have who had a pretty, you know, this kind of upbringing would still progress much more quicker, much more faster, would have a higher rate of graduation. So it kind of, unfortunately, it's still a bit lopsided because the foundations are still fucked.
Mm.
You know?
That example of Auckland Grammar, that would solve the diversity problem from scratch because they'll get them better education.
Yeah.
They'll get more opportunities to see new things that they couldn't do if they went to a public school back in the suburbs or something like that.
I mean, you look at people who went to. The example is like, you have one school that gives you standardized subjects, which is just your standard maths, economics, geography, and then you have another school that offers you art, offers you calculus, offers you a much more diverse range of subjects that would probably pique your interest in terms of education. Well as standardized bullshit like maths, Pythagoras theorem. Blah. Who the fuck wants that shit? And I think one of the biggest things I think and maybe a teacher will fucking tell me to go fuck myself, is that I think our schools need to be at a standard. And look, this is just me thinking. Don't fucking ask me how to do it, okay? I don't fucking know, but I think our schools at a foundational level need to be fucking just on the board, man. Now, how we do that, I have no idea. But it's clear to me that you look at people who go to good schools and people who go to, standard schools, it speaks for itself. The results speak for itself. Like, when I'm talking about personality, the people who go to normal school are probably more cooler, in terms of personality because they're not fucking up themselves. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about progressing in life and being set up to sort of take those challenges and actually move forward,
It's interesting how because like you said, you throw race out of the equation. You still got the problem of a dog eat dog world, like in terms of putting your kids in the best schools, and that's normal. That's life. I mean, that's life. Life is hard. Like if you can't get there, well, you gotta survive, And these are like sort of the obstacles life throws at you, that are sort of across the board. If you think about, if we go back to thinking about how people can get out of that rut with welfare dependency, like to realize that life is hard, you got to work to get up there. If you're behind, then you got to know where the starting line is and try to get there as fast as you can, so you can start with the rest of the people. But I think the race thing just complicates it even more.
Yeah,
because you've taken it out,
and I guess that's why I've taken it out, because it's an extra level of complication that we probably don't need in that conversation.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
But you just proved how hard life is without the race thing.
Yeah, but imagine how easier life would be if we were given a pretty good start in terms of an education, right? And I think if we can change it, and that's the crazy thing about it. I don't think we should be accepting that this is just, okay, this is the best we're going to get out of this school because we live in West Auckland or we live in South Auckland, North Shore. This is the best we're going to get. I don't believe in that. I believe that we can get better. And if we're basing it on statistics and how many people, proceed in life and become, good human beings and successful human beings, a solid foundation at school is fucking important. So why can't we try that? And then you mentioned dog eat dog world. Yeah, fuck yeah. Competition is good. Competition is great. We should be competing. But that's what the schools need to be doing. Competing. They need to be competing for students, And how do you compete for students? You offer better and better shit, and more and more each year. It's like, ooh, we've got Neil deGrasse Tyson coming in as a guest lecturer. That's how we're gonna grab people. Like, oh, we're getting educated people to come, as a form of trying to attract students to things. And I think by doing that, letting schools actually compete with each other and trying to better their subjects to try and attain more students, I think that's one way to go.
I think what you've done you've made the problem less complicated to look at the solution, because it means to distribute the same amount of quality teaching to all the schools. The government should do it. The government's got the money to do that.
Yeah, but that's a hard one too. I mean, how do you measure quality?
I mean, we have all the schools to teach the same things, and then put the right people to teach those things. Like if schools like King's College, Auckland Grammar, Dilworth, whatever, have all these out of it subjects that no one else has, why don't government just make sure these subjects are in these other schools and have put the right people there? Because then you'll get more. You get more incentive for teachers to become teachers because now they can teach what they want to teach at other schools, and the government's got money to do that. I mean, they've got problems with the health. They're gonna need to put money in health and get more nurses and doctors here. I mean, when I think about that, the government's fucked. You know, like, after the COVID thing and all the bad press they've got of trying to fix this country up.
Yeah,
of the healthcare is the major one, and then you got the schools as well.
I'd change that slightly. Yeah, I mean, I would open it up that each school gets incentivized to come up with more and more creative ways of teaching their students. I mean, how have you done that test on to see how do you learn best? Like, are you a tactile learner? Are you do you learn better when you do things? Do you learn better when you listen? Do you learn better are you more visual?
I understand it, but I think I left school before all that happened.
No, I'm asking you. I mean, how do you learn? Like, what's the best way for you to learn? So if you had to learn a new skill, is it better for you to read about it? Is it better for you to actually have hands-on with the technology or whatever that is and do it? Is it better that someone teaches you or talks to you about it? You know?
Right. I think I'm a read and do.
Yeah. And so the point I'm making is everyone's different, right? Every school in New Zealand right now, whether you're private, public, they teach by just telling them, right? They're trying to tell them this is how things are. And that's kind of standardized teaching. Yeah, they may mix in some practical stuff and things like that. But I think, like, kind of going back to what I originally said, I think each school should be incentivized on thinking outside the box on how they actually provide and teach, and that may be coming with new subjects, being able to sort of, present, like, say they've taken like a math course and they've flipped it around and made it interactive so that people are more drawn or understand it a lot more better. I think that's the way to go about it, as opposed to standardizing everything, because I don't think standardizing everything is a good thing. I don't think because it doesn't work for everyone. And if you standardize everything, it becomes very rigid. It's like, because that's the problem we have now. Public schools are all standardized. They're not fucking
standardizing the way of teaching or standardizing
teaching
the
subjects.
Or both.
I think both. Yeah, and I think teachers try their best to try and inspire students to try to learn, and they try to use different technologies and things like that. To try their best. But I think if they were given probably, like I said, I think a teacher will fucking say otherwise. But I think if they were given free reign, obviously within reason, you don't want to fucking go cowboy and then just fucking make up bullshit, start a cult in the middle of the school. But I think if they're given enough power and enough sort of ability to sort of make the learning experience different, whatever that looks like, and each school is individual because they'll look at the students, they'll look at their population and say, like, look, this is what's worked with these group of people. Let's try that, and I think that will go a long way in sort of like finding that equity from different schools, But what the fuck do I know? I fucking hated school, but that's probably why I can speak on the subject, because I fucking hated school. I didn't find anything interesting. None of my teachers were inspiring, and this is Tonga and New Zealand. None of it drew me in to say, you know what, further education is a good thing. You should consider further education. And the only reason I got further education is because I knew that's what my parents wanted. Like, I'm glad I did it because I see the fucking benefits of it. But if I was left to my own devices with the way that I was taught then and the way that I was presented with the world, I don't think I would have gone very far, to be fair.
I think further education is more important now than ever, especially with the way society's going around the world, especially with technology. They've even had solutions to what happens when no one can work anymore because everything's computerized with the universal income.
We're fucked.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I had my friend Josh. Me and my friends in town, we have this very, very terrible habit of just overly debating stupid topics. I'll give you an example of a stupid topic. We debated when we were in school whether animals had souls. Like, and that went on for like a decent amount of fucking time. That was the caliber of our minds at the time, And we find, and it's always fun. We just argue and just bring up bullshit statistics. Like, I don't think we actually had proper statistics. We just kind of made it up on the spot. But we had a good conversation, because at the time I didn't really know much about universal income, and he's quite pro universal income, And we went about it, and I went down the lines. Look, I don't think the economy can fund or manage universal income. It's going to cripple our whole economy. The government's going to have to increase taxes and all this other shit. His argument came with like, look, with the introduction of new technology, it's inevitable. People are going to lose their jobs. There needs to be some form of safety net, and all the positives of universal income, the ability to sort of give you more time, make you a little bit more financially free to do things, opens up a whole different sort of aspect of leisure, with the ability to have guaranteed income regardless, and eventually he fucking won me over it. Not at the time, because I'm a very fucking stubborn and proud person. I didn't admit it to him then and there. But like I reckon like maybe like 6 months, I looked a little bit more into it, and I listened to a podcast from this political guy in America. Andrew Yang. Yeah, fuck, I can't believe I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, Andrew Yang. And he explained it pretty well for me. And I think that is what kind of made me see the reason behind why universal income could be a good idea. Whether it's feasible, I have no idea. Because obviously there's going to have to be a massive shake-up of the system. Our benefits, our tax system, what the government spends their money on, which probably isn't a bad thing, but whether it's going to work or not, I have no idea.
It's an interesting one because
are you for it?
I have concerns. We talked about
you capitalist.
We talked about welfare dependency, and what does that do to the whole scenario? I mean, I get it. You make AI drive cars. Think of all those jobs gone in overnight. All the truck drivers, or the Uber drivers, taxi drivers, any driving job gone. And you think of the population that's without a job.
That as jobs, yeah.
But I also get that the main, the big modern cities will affect straight away. You can go back to I'll probably have to go back to the islands, live off the land again. But how much time would that take before you can't do that? You get a whole lot of, how do you say when a whole lot of people move to
they fuck off.
Yeah. Go back to the country, live off the land. You get a lot of the organic living off the land shit happening again. Because that's the only way. But then how long would that last? And then when things get truly, squeezed.
Fuck, just say it exactly what it is, man. Fucked.
Then what do? What do you do?
I think it's difficult because it's all hypotheticals at the moment, right? I think what is probably not, it's becoming more and more evident and true and less of a hypothetical is that technology is taking over a lot of jobs, right? So we need to figure out something very quickly on how we manage that, I think if we look at universal income as a possible solution to that, what that potentially does, it allows people, because it wouldn't be like enough money to live on, right? Especially if you've been a working person and now you're redundant and you're getting universal income regardless, right? It's not going to hold you over and support you for the rest of your life, right? But what it does do when you are working is that it gives you more financial freedom to do other things that you possibly thought you couldn't do. Investing, spending money, saving if you wanted to, but and the other, what is the other alternative? All these people fuck off back to the islands. They and what, yeah, they can go back and live off the land, but that's not really a feasible option for a lot of these people. A lot of these people don't even know how the fuck to live off the land. They barely get to Countdown, let alone going to grow their own shit.
Well, the scenario is fucked if it happens overnight, and suddenly you got millions and millions just out of work overnight.
It wouldn't happen overnight. That's what I can guarantee, because the government will not allow that to happen. Can you imagine the fucking riots that'll happen? Actually, no, I take that back. I'm pretending like the government gives two shit really about us, and they don't really. But I don't think it'll happen, because I think there's an incentive for them to not allow that to happen overnight. Because they probably don't know how to. Because look, it's actually now that I'm thinking about it, now that I've actually had some little epiphany. The government may be against it because who the fuck are they going to tax if the drivers go out of work and they're not getting their income? That's going to be a massive blow. It may not actually happen now that I'm thinking about it, because unless the government gets some incentive for that to happen, yeah, it may be great for the economy and it allows us to progress forward in terms of that technology and AI and all that other stuff. But the government doesn't give two flying fucks about that. They want to know how do they get their income tax and how do they tax the people. And if all those people are not working and now they have to pay universal income to these guys as well, or benefits, if universal income didn't come through, I don't think the government will stand for that. I don't think they'll allow it. They may put so much fucking regulation in there that technology may not actually fly. And there has been technology that's been regulated fucking out of existence. Cryptocurrency may be that, actually. It may just get regulated out of existence because it just doesn't benefit the government machine. So who knows?
I think the only way that you can bail out the government is for them to attack education at the bottom end. Like, now trades is not an option anymore, No more trades, no more politics, no more building, no more, that kind of stuff. And
have you seen that 3D printed house? Talking about building. Have you seen that 3D printed house?
I've heard of what they do with 3D printers.
Every construction worker should be shitting their fucking pants right now if that becomes a mainstream building.
Yeah.
Because that is instant. Because that technology is out now. It's not like, possibly be a thing. No, that fucking thing is out. I saw that motherfucker build an entire fucking house within a couple of days. How the fuck do you compete with that?
Well, there you go. We're talking about all trades gone.
Yeah.
So so now
universal income, universal basic income.
but see, now you're gonna go under the bottom and scoop up all the kids and say, now you can't do trades anymore. We're just gonna be the AI, IT generation. You can only subjects at school now are computers.
Fuck.
That could work.
You're not really painting a very bright future at the moment, are you?
No, I'm not, because I'm thinking about what people are gonna do. People need to. I mean, it's hard for people now to go back to lifestyle of what human beings need: just food, shelter, and love. The three things humans need to survive. How can we go back to those three things if we can't get the material things we've been used to all these years?
I mean, it may be an opportunity for people to find new career pathways. I don't know. I mean, that comes back to our original conversation about being self-motivated to improve yourself. Because this is like, we're having this conversation now, but this conversation has been had for like 10 years plus at the moment, right? So it's not like so it won't be an overnight thing like we're fearful of. It's been coming, and look, there's going to be a lot of people that will, and if there's no government intervention that's going to stop it, there's going to be, people are going to bitch and moan, and they're going to not riot, but they're going to protest. They're going to do this and that. That's still not going to stop the technology from coming through, So what do they need to do? Well, universal basic income is not going to fix all their problems, but what it may do is give them a buffer enough to sort of figure out what's the next step.
Or get their kids on to the next thing.
Well, what may happen is that they start universal basic income prior to all those changes, because with that, everyone gets that money, regardless. You could be a billionaire, you're still going to receive UBI, right? That's just kind of what's going to happen. And maybe at some point it gives them that flexibility and freedom, and then allows them to, because the idea is if you have more money and you're not worrying about financial issues, you'll be more free to pursue other things that you probably couldn't pursue because of the financial restrictions that you had. So that's kind of a possibility, because look, if I put myself in those shoes and I was a truck driver and someone said, look, eventually you're going to be out of a job, what are you going to do? Are you going to say, nah, that's not going to happen? The technology is there. There's a fucking Tesla self-driving car right now. Like, you can't pretend that it's not there. It's not like a conspiracy theory. It's not like a concept. No, the technology is here. Technology is here right now. So what would you do? Just hold on to whatever job that you have, or do you start really, seriously think about what's the next step from here? I don't know. I'm not in that position, so I probably can't actually think. I mean, I'm always fearful that at some point they're gonna come up with a robot nurse, and then I become irrelevant and redundant. Or a magic pill that fixes all mental health issues, and I'm really fucked. Got no job after that. That'd be great for the people who have those diagnoses, but terrible for me because I'll be fucking out of a job. I'll be sitting here, if that ever eventuates, I want to fucking sit here with you and be like, fuck you, man. You talked about drivers. You didn't even talk about nurses. What the fuck? You didn't warn me beforehand.
See, that's the thing I think about when the universal income thing first came to mind, because I always thought that the art sort of jobs, the jobs where you think the design sort of jobs are the last to go, because it's hard for AI to think like a human being. I mean, you can do AI can do what we want them to do, drive a car and all that, but to think of a painting, think of art kind of stuff out the box.
But that's becoming more and more irrelevant, though, isn't it? Like there's this. Oh, I'm so addicted to TikTok at the moment, But there's this TikTok video where this guy, there's different videos, but it shows this AI program that can basically do any art that you ask it to, and it'll accumulate different information from the internet, and then it'll produce you a picture. So you'll type in, say, like a tiger flying an airplane through the Himalayas, and then it'll accumulate different things, and it wouldn't be just like a stupid picture. It'll have an impression, and it'll culminate different things, and it'll have multiple aspects and different perspectives of that art. And if you say you didn't say it was an AI and presented that art as your own, no one would question it. So the thing is, we can't keep saying, look, AI can't do what humans do, because that's becoming less and less true as the fucking years progress. If you look at let's relate it to a movie, since we're big movie guys. What's that Will Smith movie with that iRobot, and how that professor, what's his name? That robot designer designed a robot with actual human emotions. Is he, and it's not like a. And it's not like he's mimicking an emotion. He has real emotions, human emotions. He's not a human being, but he's experiencing human emotions. Does that make him less human in the ways that he perceives the world and sort of, has feelings, or because he's a robot, it's irrelevant?
I think it's relevant if he can do the jobs that we can do.
But that's the scary thing. If we say that, they can do it better, and. So it's a fucking man. Now I'm getting freaked out.
No, that's freaky because it's our own doing. That's gonna be our own demise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are these people inventing AI? What do they expect us to do now? We just sit at home and everything's done for us?
Well, there's two. I think when we let's go back 10, 15 years ago, when people talked about technology taking over, we think about Terminator, right? The fucking robots are going to turn on us, and then it's going to be humans versus robots, and we're going to have a massive fucking war, but robots win out in the end because they're robots. We designed them to win. I think the more and more we see it, I think what we find is that we will probably integrate with robots so much. And this is not, again, this is just something I've listened to and I've read about when it comes to AI technology, and the future of technology in terms of being humans, is that we will integrate with them at some point. Not that we're going to transfer our consciousness into a computer, but we'll start replacing our limbs with robotic arms and things like that. We'll start replacing our heart for people who have heart issues with a robotic heart. And at some point, what is traditionally human of us would be replaced by robots. So I think that's how the human race ends. I think we end by our own doing, but I think it ends because we had good intentions to sort of make ourselves better, and eventually, what we probably traditionally saw as human beings is no longer going to be relevant because no one is left alive.
So I think they are looking at using technology to extend our lifetimes.
Yeah, it's happened now. I mean, the average lifespan, back in the day, was what, 40?
Yeah.
30?
Yeah.
You
40,
know?
50, yeah.
Yeah. And look at people are living to past 100. So technology is already helping, but oh God, can you imagine like having your heart replaced with like a fucking robot, like not a robot, like a machine?
And living another 50 years?
Yeah, or even longer. I mean, we already know which parts of our body, we need to keep us going, the parts that don't regenerate, and if we replace all that shit, I guess our brains will be the last difficult one to do. Because I think if we're unable to sort of get that aspect fixed, we can replace all our body. But if our brain continues to fucking die out, become demented.
But see, AI would have been so advanced that they can think like humans. All we need to do is download our conscious into that AI and put it back in our heads.
Yeah, that may be it. That may be our future. I don't know. Do you think that's a bad future? Really? I mean, if that was our evolution as a human being, as human beings,
to live longer, about 200.
Well, that we evolved so much that we don't even represent what. Actually, have you seen the movie Lucy? The one with Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
And she evolved, right? She evolved so quickly throughout the movie, and eventually she evolved so much that she didn't even need a body. That actually may be the actual thing. It's like our bodies decay like fucking nothing. Like we'll eventually, I think, possibly if we keep replacing everything, there's still going to be aspects that are just not going to work eventually, like our brains, for example. And maybe it is that downloading ourselves into a fucking virtual world. We're already building the virtual world, the metaverse. It's fucking already sort of here.
The only practical problem with living longer than 100 is what are you going to do with your life all those years? Are you going to change your career because you're bored?
But see, we'd have a different perspective, I think our perspective would be very different. We won't be driven by income. We won't be driven by human needs, human wants. We won't even have fucking bodies, So I think we would like to think that the human nature will sort of prohibit us from sort of getting to that point, because we need purpose, we need things to keep us going.
But if we don't need food anymore,
exactly. We don't need income. We don't have these
love,
human impulses. Are we still human?
What are we gonna do? Be on the internet all 24/7?
Well,
looking
look,
out,
higher beings,
stuff.
higher beings, possibly. I mean, you look at all these movies.
Watch movies.
Well, I don't even think we'll need that, because we don't need entertainment. All the things that make us human, and I guess one of our biggest flaws is what makes us human, which is our needs and our wants and our different personalities and things like that. And I think eventually, if we go down that pathway, for example, right, and we rid ourselves of all of that, do you think we'll probably just find no purpose and die? Or do we sort of just go like, oh, we just continue to improve. We just continue to improve. That's our new motivation.
If we were to be downloaded into a hard drive, our conscious, and like we don't need love anymore, we don't need food, we don't need to walk around, why not just be there, exist and learn? Just be on the internet 24/7, be in the metaverse, because then we'll be in the metaverse. We'll be going around looking at all the virtual stuff. We won't be feeling. We won't be, but we can still talk to people.
Well, there'll be a lot of people that'll be resistant to that. Like the purists. I'll start calling them. I'm gonna trademark that, the purists who refuse to sort of go into that world because they don't believe that's what makes us human. That death is part of the human cycle, and it's a beautiful thing. It makes us be more aware of our surroundings, makes us more present, makes us appreciate shit more. And I think,
But we can have a choice whether we want to turn ourselves off or not.
No, there won't be any choices, brother. You think that we've got choices now? No. If COVID has taught us very, very well that we have no fucking choices. If the people in power want us to not do anything, they'll fucking do it. They'll do it. So no, it's an illusion of choice, my friend. Sorry to burst your bubble, but there's no such thing as choice.
But what are you talking about? We're talking about a virtual reality afterlife.
We're talking about human evolution and what that possibly looks like with the integration of technology. And look, we don't know. We're not specialists in the field. But if we had to guess, right, I think
But
there'll
we're
be.
controlling our own afterlife
But-
in the form of a computer.
But I guess it's the question you pose is like, what will we be doing, right? So I guess, look, the metaverse. If we put on 3D goggles and we jump into the metaverse, we still have our human emotions. We still have our wants, our needs, our feelings. What makes us human, right? But throw that all away. Everything that the emotional side of things, your wants, your needs. Throw that all away. So that's the real question that I have. Like, then what? We no longer have to worry about food. We don't need sex. We don't need love. We don't need anything. We are just we're just a being. We're like a program, almost like a computer program. Programs are designed to do one thing. So the question that I have is, what would that be? What would our one thing be? Would we be looking at continuing to improve and expand our consciousness or the environment that we're in? Or are we going to sort of realize at some point that we're just going to fizzle out and die because what makes us human is no longer there? We die. It just becomes an empty nothing.
I think what happens is that
It becomes Internet Explorer.
well, we will be, but I think we'll be slaves to reality. Like if I was to die of old age, my body dies of old age, but my conscience can go into a computer.
Yeah.
So my family, my grandkids and that can dial me up on the phone and talk to me, and I'm there. I don't need anything, but it's up to them to talk to me and all that.
But I think at some point everyone's going to be on.
Yeah,
There's going to be no one left out.
Oh, it's a big database.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, that's the question I have. Is like, if we all shed our human bodies and all that stuff, and yes, we live forever, but the trade-off is we lose everything that makes us human. And what makes us human is what makes us curious, makes us want to progress forward, makes us want to explore, do all these new things. But if we don't have those drivers anymore, and we have our consciousness, but it's not really our consciousness anymore, if that kind of makes sense. We're just a thing, What kind of motivation will we have to keep going,
What if, like, right now, when we die?
Are we high right now?
like at the moment, when we die at the moment, right now, if we were to die tomorrow, where does our conscience go? No one knows, really. I mean, if you're religious,
mine's probably going to hell, but
you go to heaven. If you're religious, go to heaven and go to hell.
Or nothing,
or
nothing,
or you come back as a butterfly, or come back as a worm, or something like that. Reincarnation, whatever you believe in. But people, you don't really know where you go. So if you go without a body, it's the same sort of thing. This technology, what we're talking about, allows us to control that afterlife, control our conscious after our body dies. But now we're just in a computer form. We're just in a database that can be brought up on a phone, computer, anytime someone else in reality wants to talk to us or wants to. But like you said, we don't need to eat. We don't need to have sex. We don't need to do any of that. We just exist consciously in the metaverse.
in that. Well, I think that's version 1.
Yeah.
I think that's how it will start off with, is that we will design this world to mimic as much as possible the real world, right? And each individual person will be able to sort of create their own world,
And that's where robots take over the world, because it will be us humans in that consciousness.
Well, we won't actually need it, right? So with us kind of transferring our consciousness in its entirety into the computer, and I think by doing that, we lose a lot of what makes us a person. I think eventually when there's no more people to upload, and it's just, this is it, the finite. We're not going to fuck each other and make new Microsoft Word babies or anything like that. Whatever's there is there. So then my question becomes, if we don't have anything that's driving us forward, what do we do? Because it's not going to be the same version of the metaverse, right? That's going to evolve over time. And eventually it's going to be what? Because, you can make, when you're alive, you make this metaverse thing that you loved as a human being. But the things that make you a human being, like your ability to love, your interests and things, I think that gets taken away.
So you think we'd just be bored?
Well, see, that's the question I have. I don't know.
In the metaverse?
I don't know. I don't know if it's bored or we'll just be empty vessels of just unsure of what's happening because we just have, what our personality and what our own makeup is gone. Now, I don't know if that's going to be part of your consciousness when you get uploaded into the computer, but that's what I'm assuming, is that all that stuff is gone and you're self-aware of yourself, because I guess that's the only way to sort of do it, that you're self-aware that you are a thing, but all the other things that drive you is no longer relevant. So then what? Then what? I don't know. That's the kind of weird shit that's possibly going to be our fucking future. Do we become one hive mind and individuality is no longer a thing, and then we just go about the universe kind of just empty, just out there doing shit, I don't know. Or we become fucking this new form of a being that is, that's nothing from what we used to be, I don't know. I actually don't want to know. Because like I used to be afraid of death. Like I used to be like scared, like, oh, what if I die? What's next? And as I grow older, and the more I don't really give two shits about a lot of stuff, I'm not actually that concerned about it. I don't want to die. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I don't want to die. But if I died, I don't think I'll be like, be like, eh.
I think definitely stress free, but the boredom will kick in sometime,
Yeah.
And should you be conscious anymore?
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. Do we just all end up sort of just, disconnecting, killing ourselves one by one because of just no purpose?
Or do you feel like if you're in the metaverse in the afterlife, you want to start your life all over again and try to live in that world? But then
The Matrix?
But then your wife will probably be there too, and you can't do anything about that.
Not if I've changed the world. I don't know, man.
Nah. Change your face around.
Yeah.
Inside.
Well, like I said, I don't like. I think all that becomes irrelevant, because having a wife and all that stuff, that's a human attachment and a human emotion, but we've gone rid of all of that, so it doesn't matter, So who knows? Who knows what the fuck that looks like? We could be totally barking up the wrong fucking tree, and we have very little understanding of what the metaverse looks like. Because I know at the moment it's designed to mimic the real world, but then in your ideal world, this is your ideal self. You can put yourself in this thing.
This is all interesting because for me, it's coming back down to why are we doing this? Why are we creating AI? Why are we doing this?
Like most bad ideas, it starts with why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Why the fuck not? I mean, I guess the technology's there. Someone said, look, I've got an idea. Another person probably said, look, that's interesting. Let's develop it. See where it comes to. And then, probably a lot of good intentions behind it, connection, the ability to sort of live the life that you want to. I look at it as, in terms of people with like disabilities and things like that, to be able to sort of be able to do the things that they probably couldn't do, in real life. So I can see like the appeal and the benefits of that shit, But yeah, like purpose, no idea. No idea.
It's funny how technology trying to change the way we live, right? But a lot of things stay the same, like working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
That is a sad thing.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But trying to work 3 days a week, 4 days a week, because you think that after all the lockdowns we've had, in order everyone's gone back to working from home, with technology got with Zoom and all that, it sort of made things easier to do that. And then when lockdown's over, everyone goes back to work, or some people anyway. But it's still working the 9 to 5 thing.
That's an interesting question, because there's a lot of controversy at the moment with Elon Musk having sent out that memo that he wants every motherfucker who worked for him to get their asses back to the office.
Yeah. I
I
didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of hot water at the moment because he sent a memo that he wants, COVID was a big driver of people working from home, but he doesn't want people working from home anymore. He wants them to come back to the office and be back to 9 to 5 in the office, physically there. I can't remember what his actual reason for it is, But he's actually firing people who refuse to come back. So that's where the controversy is coming from. Is that he's I guess they're arguing he's unfairly dismissing people who can still do their job at home, but he wants them to come back into the office. And I'm sure he's got his own reason for it. I can't think of it right at this point in time, but I don't think that I think a lot of people became very comfortable working from home. And that conversation is still happening at the moment. It's like, why can't we work from home? It was actually fine. I don't think everyone can. I personally, the job that I do, I cannot work. I cannot work from home. You can in some aspects, but a majority of the work that I do is face to face with actual people. Zoom doesn't work because I work with people who are super fucking paranoid. And they think there's a chip in their phone and people are spying on them. It doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah. No, I think the jobs that you need to be face to face, you definitely need to be out there in the field. The jobs where people are stuck in cubicles and not really interacting anyway, in the office jobs, in terms of mental health, like it's good for staying home, because if you're in a job where it's just a 9 to 5 grind, and you're not really interacting with anyone anyway at work, and you don't have those restrictions, or you don't have the 9 to 5 thing where you can work from home. And even if you get things done at home, like see the kids go to school, you're still doing the work. You got all that time. You're not restricted to 9 to 5. Now you got the whole day to do the work in your own time. A mental health perspective, that's good, isn't it?
I think so. Who's more correct? The workers who want to work from home, or the people who pay you who want you to work from the office? Who should at the end of the day make that decision? And I think a lot of people benefit from from a mental health point of view from being able to work from home, the flexibility, the ability to spend time at home with their kids if they need to, and things like that. But then again, it's not your business. The person that you work for decides whether you have to come into work or not. So, who has the more right to sort of do what they want? I don't know. I mean, I don't like working from home because I'm too distracted. I've got too many things at home that make me too comfortable.
Yeah. But that's when the flexibility comes in. If people that feel better working for an office, they can go work in an office. But you can also work at home. Some people are morning people. Their brains are turned on in the morning, turned off after 3 o'clock. Some people are the other way around. They work better at night. So they get it's all, to me, it's all about the productivity, and it's the long run thing too. Because if you have staff that stay at the company because they got flexible hours, they'll tend to stay there a lot longer.
But that doesn't make sense in the sense of running a business, right? Because the business is not there to give you flexible hours so that you're fine. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying, like if I was a business, I want my workers to be as productive as possible. I can't guarantee you're productive at home, and we can all. I don't give a fuck who you are. You are not as productive at home as you say that you are. You just can't be. You just can't be. Because as much as you can shut yourself in the door in an office and put your headphones on and try to concentrate, no, go fuck yourself. You didn't, right? You walked to the fridge. You spent some time. You walked around the kitchen. You fucking did work. You probably did finish your work. But if you had to measure productivity, I think it was less. I could be wrong. Someone will prove me wrong, and I'll happily eat that's wrong. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think people were as productive at home. I'm basing it on myself. I definitely was not more productive at home. I got the work done. I did my best, but I think I could have finished all of that work a lot more quicker if I was in the office in an environment where I needed to get shit done. And I think the environment plays a big part. I think being at home, and I guess because I have this personal view, I do not fucking like bringing work home with me because of all the traumatic stuff that happens to me at work. I don't want to bring that home with me. And the prime example was, I was at home, kids were at home, I was downstairs, on doing work, and I had a phone call, right? I had a phone call from this really distressed dude, and he was fucking going off at me, just swearing, threatening me and things like that. And I was trying to de-escalate him and trying to sort of tell him, like, just calm down, But it was a very distressing phone call for him and for me, And that leaves a massive impact on you. So when I ended that phone call, my adrenaline was up. I was pissed. I was fucking disappointed. I wasn't sure what I needed to do next. There was a lot of emotions running through me at that time. And my kids are nearby. They're upstairs. They heard everything I said. I'm telling this guy, look, you don't, I know things are hard right now, but look, I don't think killing yourself is a good idea. That kind of language. I don't want to be bringing that up in front of kids, because then my daughter comes on and asks me, oh, what were you talking about? Oh, I was just trying to support a guy to make sure he doesn't kill himself. It's different. It's very, very different, and I find it very beneficial to keep work separately. And I think it doesn't matter what job you do. I think you should be able to separate your home life from your work life. And I think the working from home part, I think we had no choice in the matter. A lot of people had no choices. That's different. So I don't think it's good for people to think that should be the standard now because of a situation that we had, called COVID. Because if COVID never happened, you'd never think about working from home.
No,
No?
we wouldn't. We'll still have those live meetings. We wouldn't have any Zoom.
Yeah. Well, you probably still have Zoom, but you'll be having it at the office. I think there's, on the flip side, there is definitely a fuck ton of jobs that could be done at home. But I don't think, if we look from a business perspective, you want the most out of your employees, and if you're not getting it because they're working from home, I think it's fair enough to ask them to return to work. So that and that's the controversial thing that's happening with Elon Musk at the moment. He's wanting people to come back to work. I don't know if it's the productivity thing or anything like that, but he's been shat on. Really.
I know one thing that I got out of working from home is that now I wasn't restricted to 9 to 5. I had the whole day now, because I found myself doing a lot of work at night and early in the morning, and not so much in the middle, but on the outside.
You were flexible. You knew what worked for you, and you kind of made that happen. Yeah,
that sort of thing. It's funny because we go back to the office, because we're back at the office now, but there's no more live meetings anymore. It's all Zoom. Even
now that you're back in the office?
Because I think companies understand that you save money on petrol.
Oh, yeah.
And it's more convenient now. But I think COVID has affected that. Because of COVID now, everyone realizes, now we just have a Zoom call. Don't have to. But the problem with that, now there's more Zoom calls than ever. There's more Zoom meetings than ever.
Oh, man, you don't have to tell me about Zoom calls, man.
Because it's so easy to make a Zoom call. They have meetings every fucking 3 meetings a day.
Well, it's connectivity, right? And you're able to probably... Well, this comes back to the productivity part, right? Is that what Zoom has allowed us to do is become more productive. We're having more meetings because we don't need to go across fucking town. We don't need to... You can literally have meetings with people overseas, right? Well, in the past, we thought it's like, oh, we have to fly someone over. Someone has to fly there, make deals, phone calls, which is really, So, no, Zoom's opened up a whole new sort of avenue in terms of how we work. And I guess what COVID has actually done is actually given us a new opportunity on how to work. Now, like I said, I'm not advocating for, staying home and working is a bad thing, I think it should be very individualized, If you think you're more productive at home, cool. If you want to go to the office, cool. Maybe both options should be open. But I do think there's certain jobs where you have to get your fucking ass to work, My job, for example, I think you should get your ass to fucking work, You can't fucking Zoom people and try and convince them to take their medications, You can't Zoom someone and try and talk them down from, from all their suicidal stuff that they're experiencing, their distress, their dysregulation. Our bread and butter is face-to-face, and healthcare is about, having that connection with people, and you can't do that over Zoom, So some jobs you need to be in the office. You need to be present. Some jobs you can do it from home. And I'm all for that.
This is the other time I thought about technology in the workplace, how, over the years, over the century, what technology has done to make us more efficient at work. Like the invention of the typewriter, and then the invention of the computer, and then the laptop, and then the Zoom calls now, and what we got now. But I thought about how, the productivity side of things, 50 years ago, if you're a company that made shoes, for instance, you could make maybe 5 pairs of shoes in one day. With the technology we've got now, we can make 100 or 1,000 shoes in one day. But we still
with less manpower too, possibly. Yeah,
with less power, manpower too.
Yeah.
but we're still working 9 to 5. So when does that stop? You know what I mean?
Never.
Like, we're gonna go until we make 1 million shoes a day. Technology allows us to make 1 million. Are we still gonna work 9 to 5? I mean, when is it ever gonna stop? But that whole thing is capitalism, right? It's like if
there's a product a person's willing to pay for, someone's going to provide it.
Exactly. So it will never stop.
No. I mean, unless we move away from capitalism and then become something else, where our basic needs are, we don't need shoes, we don't need all these things that we enjoy now. Yeah, sure. Maybe things will change. But that's like a lifestyle thing, right? That's how our society is made. Have you I've recently, I'm so glad I've recently managed to get through some books. I've been really against audiobooks for a long time because I felt I was very elitist. I was like, no, you need.
I know how you feel.
You need to fucking the texture of the pages, the actual sitting down and reading. I was really against audiobooks, and I just realized I have no fucking time to read. I've got zero time to read. I used to be able to get through a couple books throughout the year, and that was trying to find time, but I hadn't done that in a couple of years. And then I just, my wife was listening to audiobooks, and I was like, fine, I'll give it a go. I finished 3 books in like a month. It's super crazy. It's super addictive. And what I recently read was I was able to finally read books that I've always wanted to read for ages. And one of them was George Orwell's 1984.
Right. I think it's free now on
1980.
There's 2 books.
Yeah, it was free on.
Right
It's free on Audible.
Yeah,
that's why I got it.
Yeah.
It's the George Orwell. So I finished Animal Farm, and I just finished 1985. 1984, and it is it fucking just really spoke to me. Just how crazy shit can go, and things like control and power and things like that. I'm bringing it up because of what you said, in terms of like society and how we're going to change, and the 9 to 5, does it ever finish? And I think the short answer is no. Because regardless on how you view things politically, there needs to be some motherfucking person working. Whether it's 9 to 5, 9 to 9, some motherfucker is going to be working. Someone is needing to drive production. Now, the question is who controls the form of production, and how are we running that? So, no, I don't think it's ever going to finish. Under capitalism, no. People are working 9 to 5. Under socialism, no. Someone's going to be working 9 to 5, probably 9 to 6,
You're talking about those crazy workaholics that don't even care about 9 to 5 because they go 24/7.
Yeah, but they're a rare breed. Those people are the exception, not the majority. So, yeah, but the book really spoke to me in the ways like, fuck, if we because what stood out to me is because I read both and none of them have happy endings. none of them have happy endings.
And it's amazing how he wrote that ages ago, like before any of that shit happened.
Exactly, and just talking about the ministry of truth, the ministry of love, the ministry of plenty. It's just just talking about how controlling information, controlling people's thoughts, strict fucking rules, to the point where you're so caught up and indoctrinated with how society is that you don't even question that it's normal, that it's not normal. There was a point I was going to make by speaking up this book, but I've been really wanting to talk to someone about this book because it's been so good, and I can see why it's so fucking highly acclaimed by lots of people. And now I get references now. When people talk, when people argue how socialism is bad, now I get the references that they're pointing to, some Orwellian nightmare that people are going to get if we, no one wants that to happen. If you read the book, no one who believes in central control, this is a good thing. Yeah, we have order. Yeah, we have people are getting not really what they need, but people are getting something, it's a crazy book. And to think that there's certain aspects of it coming true, like media, controlling the narrative and information of the world and things like that. That's some pretty scary shit. We've talked about that before, how the media is kind of well fucked and they have a narrative and, they're not going to sort of go over the narrative. you know. And then you read this fucking book, and you're like, holy shit! Now you can sort of see like the trickling effects of that could possibly happen. And I'm like, fuck! If I wasn't paranoid before, I'm super fucking paranoid now. Don't fucking believe anything.
Animal Farm was the first Orwell book I read, and this was back at school.
Yeah.
And it was cool because that's the first time I understood what socialism was all about, and the effect it had, the negative effect it had.
Yeah. What both books speak to me is that people will do anything to maintain power, you know, and you know, in 1984, it was very clear, you know, it wasn't about control, it wasn't about, you know, the aim of Big Brother wasn't about control, it wasn't about wars, it wasn't about this, it was about power. It wasn't about generational stuff. It's how can we hold on to this fucking power, you know. You know, the funny thing about Animal Farm is I was so fucking ignorant to it. I didn't realize it was literally about animals. Like the characters are animals.
Yeah.
So when I started, I was like, is this the right book? Like Old Major, like is a pig, and like what the fuck?
Who's the communist guy? The pig? No, was it the pig?
There was two pigs, Snowball and Napoleon.
Oh, yeah.
So those were the two that took over and formed Animal Farm. Yeah, but no, it was like. It was very do I want to say enlightening? It was very enlightening about the possibility of having the wrong person in power, you know, and how we need to be very careful about, you know, big governments and central control and all that stuff because that could happen. I mean that shit is happening in other countries, you know. They may not call it socialism, but you know, something to that degree is happening.
What Animal Farm spoke to form of socialism was back then was the USSR.
Yes, Russia.
What they were doing.
Comrades.
It's funny how it all comes from a place of compassion.
At the start.
At the start, like that. It's like, why are humans mean to each other? Why can't we all be equal?
It starts from oppression, I think.
Yeah.
Like, look at what these people are doing to us. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like they benefit from everything, and we the workers are working on a day-to-day basis, and they reap the rewards. We should reap the rewards. You know, the worker is the most important shit. You know, that's what I got out of it. Like the oppression part of it was what really drove them to make a change, and the change was good at the beginning, but then just how it evolved and just became this dark, fucking crazy, fucking world, you know. And
because the leaders become corrupt, because they're in control of it, right? So they become corrupt, and because everyone's equal down the line, there's no incentives anymore.
What I noticed, what stood out to me is that there was a lot of references about how the years went on, and as the years went on, people more and more forgot about how things used to be prior to the changeover to Animal Farm, and that's the scary part, you know, because if you think about it, if we go down a pathway where we continue to go down where it's negative, we're not going to remember a time where things were good. You know, we're not going to remember a time where things were better. We've only known death and suffering, you know, to talk about the extreme side of things, but, you know, and that makes it dangerous because anything that we, you know, so why would we try and fight for anything different if we didn't know anything different? You know, so that's the psychological aspect of it all. You know,
and if you think about what communist China did, they went ahead and actually destroyed the past.
Yeah.
They burned all the books and.
Well, that's exactly what they did too. They changed everything. You know, the Ministry of Truth in 1984. They literally went through the history books and changed every aspect. They even changed their own history. You know, we used to be at war with Eurasia. Now we're at war with East Asia. We've always been at war with East Asia. Sorry, I had the narrator was Stephen Fry, so it was like quite a, you know, he was quite good, man. Like he's good to listen to. Like his voice was just perfect for the fucking book. You know, but yeah, it's freaky, man. It's freaky, and I can see why people, you know, if you're already suspicious of government and you don't want central control, and you read this fucking book and you look at, you know, because this is not just a book. This is a book that's kind of telling you what could possibly happen if in the right circumstances. You know, it's not a great fucking, you know, it's not a great fucking fucking future. you know. But I loved it. It's made me more addicted to reading again. You know, so now I'm on my like fourth book now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was like you. I would try to avoid audiobooks because of the very same reason. You know, wanted to
Elitist. We're elitists.
And plus, I think it takes away you actually reading the words. Because when I remember reading books, like when you read the sentences, you actually know what the word looks like, and especially hard words like long words, and you get the sentence. It's different to listening to it.
Yeah.
'Cause you're not really picturing anything,
words.
but you're not picturing the word itself. You're just picturing what your imagination's doing. Exactly when you're reading a book, but with you reading the words, you, as well as imagining what the scene is, you're actually looking at the word, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
Especially if you're into writing. And
I hate to say it, but I think audiobooks are better now.
Oh, it's better because you got a lot more times. You can get through books just like that. You know?
But not just in time. What I've noticed is that I find my visualization of the book more vivid when I'm listening to it, and I think it's because the narrator is fucking great. You know, he is amazing at the job. Stephen Fry is fuck. Oh man,
He's got a couple of books himself, eh?
books. Yeah.
I think he's into the Roman Empire and stuff.
Yeah, he did. There's another one I'm going to get. It was Mythos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one about all the Greek legends and stuff like that. That's good.
He's got two, I think. That one and
he's got a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just the way that because the way that he read it, and it may be just a Stephen Fry thing, but it was so vivid to me, like the way that I was, and actually it was probably not a good thing because I was driving every time I listened to it. It was like I get lost in the book, and when I'm at work and I'm driving around seeing people, and I get really annoyed because I have to stop and I have to put the book on pause and go out and do something, and then come back. Okay, quickly listen to the next book, and then listen to the rest of the chapter. But no, I'm gonna have to take it back. I think that audiobooks are better than actually reading. Just for multiple reasons. Now.
Yeah, it's the same as listening to a podcast. You get through a lot. But is that the only reason why? Because you get through a lot of books? Because that's the only benefit I have.
That's a benefit as well. I'm not a fast reader. So I probably because I've got like a level of what's the thing where people find it hard to read words and things like that.
Illiterate, no.
No, illiterate. You can't read at all. No, dyslexia.
Yeah.
I think I've got some minor elements of that.
Do you turn the speed up?
No. I let it run. I tried that, but then I thought it was a little bit too fast. Just one speed up.
I just do until I think it's too fast, and then I just leave it. But I like to get through it real quickly.
No. I let it go through on its own. But yeah, no, there was just something about it, man, that just really, like, I think it's dangerous actually now because like now I just want to I'm no, actually I shouldn't say that. I think it's a good thing. I think it's made me looking at it opened it's reopened an opportunity for me to be able to read the books that I probably wouldn't have if I had to find time to sit down and read it on page. Like I said, I've been wanting to read these two George Orwell books for years,
long time, yeah.
for a long time, and it's almost like it was fate. It was free. It was free, part of my subscription that I got. The first one I got was this is because of Joe Rogan. I got the Immortality Key.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
So it's basically this guy following up on a previous book from another professor where they deep dive into the use of psychedelic drugs and religion.
Is that the one with the mushrooms? The red top mushrooms?
Yeah, well, mushrooms is part of it. So basically, he kind of goes through different religions where he starts from the pagans and then kind of works his way through, and he interconnects them all to a drink, right? It's a psychedelic drink where people would drink it and then they have these quite vivid, visions and prophetic sort of stuff, and then he relates it to when you look at, let's say, in not Greek mythology, but in Greek history, there was the seer, the seer of Delphi. There was a lot of evidence to point that she used psychedelic stuff to enact visions, and then you move it towards the legend of the Greek god Dionysus. and his use of red wine and psychedelic stuff in there, and the cult of Dionysus that evolved from that. Then they went through and connected Dionysus to Jesus, and how they used the Eucharist and the wine, and and he believed that the original body of Christ and stuff that the Catholics love doing, that the original one was psychedelic as fuck, So he kind of goes through all that stuff, and then just and it was a pretty gnarly journey to go through. But another thing the thing that stood out for me was, I didn't know this prior to reading this book, but there's this thing called the pagan continuity theory, where it's basically that modern religions like Christianity largely based off pagan rictuals.
Yeah.
So he gave an example of the Greek god Dionysus. So there is a very similar story of him going, because I believe he was born, like his father was God and his mother was human, and there was a scene there's a Greek there's a story of him going to this party where there was no wine, and then he said, bring me water, and then he changed the water into wine, and that was one of the first things into godhood. And then he compared it directly with Jesus, and the way that he went to the party and they ran out of wine, and then he turned water into wine. And I'm just sitting there, like, I think I paused it at that point. I was like, holy fuck, that is interesting as hell. And it's just, and it just goes through all these different aspects. So he's not trying to disprove Christianity. He's not religious at all. But what he is saying is that, if you believe, what I got out of it is that, like, the people who believe in God because they saw him, and they saw him by getting fucking high on psychedelics, and it makes sense. Like when you hear people talk about, like, being taken over by the Holy Spirit, after taking this and that, and you look at the ancient texts about, some of the things that John the Baptist talked about, he related all of that to people taking psychedelic stuff, whether it's mushrooms or, this, that, or the other. And it makes total sense.
Yeah,
Because they profess it in such a way that they saw it, And I can't remember the reason now because I was so caught up with it. But, now the Catholic Church has sort of hidden that history away. And now they don't want to do it because, like, who are we, the lowly humans, to be able to have access directly to God in that sense, So it was good. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
Because the ones I've heard, recently, there's a book called Sapiens. It's out there. It's a history on humans, and so there's a bit about religion, how it's easier because the Romans when they used to conquer a people, they'll take their religion and integrate it with their own. That's why you got heaps of gods. That's why they've gotten. Yeah, that's why when you're Roman, you had heaps of gods until, who's that one person?
Nero?
Is it Constantine?
Constantine.
He changed it to one god.
Yeah, well, he adopted Christianity as the main religion for the Roman Empire.
Yeah. So the easiest way to convert people to the new religion was to use their religion to make it the same. So it's an easier way for them.
It's a way to sort of like
bring them in,
colonize.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
so that's
is that true though?
That's a pagan thing that was happening. That's what he describes in the book. That's how they.
So he's saying that the Roman gods, Zeus, Apollo, Poseidon, that they didn't have all of them at the beginning, and then they were adopted from other people.
They adopted whoever they conquered.
Yeah.
They adopted their religion into their integrated.
Like integrated it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Into theirs.
I didn't know that.
So if they had a new god, they'll make it a god of whatever.
Oh, so bring it in.
So they've had heaps of gods.
That would be pretty powerful, though.
So that was a way to get the conquered people onto their side to be part of them.
To integrate them into the Roman society.
So when Christianity, at the beginnings of Christianity, that's what they did with the pagan stuff. They integrated some of their stories into the Christian, so to convert them easy.
Yeah, good luck trying to sort of get anyone who in the actual church to sort of agree to that. But the similarities are so crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Like even Indian religions has got similar stuff.
I mean, look. Fuck. That goes down the conspiracy theory side of things. Where it's like, oh, what are they withholding from us? La la la. But it makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
it does make sense. And the psychedelic stuff is not new either.
no, that's the point he
Yeah.
made. It's not new. It's even to the caveman days. They were
Yeah,
using
yeah.
psychedelic stuff as well.
Because if you come across these, say you come across these mushrooms for the first time and you have it, and you feel all the shit, the psychedelic shit, and you think this is a higher power doing something to you.
Well, yeah. So the common thing that, because he interviewed a couple of people, he never partook in it because he wanted to be like separate. He didn't want to be like, I guess he used himself as a control, right? In the experiment, and he said that the common thing people talked about when they were high on mushrooms in particular, because they were doing a study on psilocybin, which is the psychedelic aspect of the mushrooms. He said that the majority of them report being one, like connection with everything, with the universe, with the trees, with people, everything. That was a common thing, So it's like, you know what it made me think? I want to fucking try some mushrooms right now. I want to try some mushrooms. I want to be one with the world. I want to find God again.
Oh, it unlocks heaps of creative shit. Well, I've heard, but even with the mushroom thing, the round mushroom, and that's where if you see any picture of Jesus, even back in the days ones, he got the round thing behind him all the time.
Oh yeah, the halo.
The halo,
yeah.
And they're saying that's meant to be the evolution of how the mushroom has evolved to the halo, to the round
to kind of cover it up.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. So you telling me that it's not actually showing his divinity, but actually it's a mushroom.
It's a mushroom.
It's a mushroom.
But there's an actual book that I think it came on Joe Rogan too. There's an actual book that talks about all this.
Yeah. So that was actually the reason I signed up to Audible, because I really wanted to read it.
All right.
I was like, fuck. They talked about it, and I was like I'm a Catholic boy, so like I kind of it spoke to me a lot actually about like the religious aspect, the protocols, the history, and all that stuff. And I was like,
it's fucking interesting, man. It's interesting. It's interesting, and I get, Christians will be mad at someone like me talking about all this shit, but you know what? It's just interesting.
Yeah, shouldn't that be a good thing that it makes you curious about it and wanting to know more?
It's just out of it.
Shouldn't that be a good thing?
Like, you put psychedelics into religion, you're like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? But then it makes sense,
Yeah, if you're not dogmatic about it and sort of caught up with the entire sort of dogma of the church, and you're open to, because like, look, imagine if the way that Jesus taught, and it was like, look, we all have access to the kingdom of heaven, and you can see it. Take this mushroom, and a lot, and that's how he got 12 motherfuckers to follow him, because they saw exactly what he saw, And look, well, we're gonna get some fucking hate now. I hope my dad doesn't fucking hear me. He is so Catholic. He's Catholic as fuck. But
they drink good wine though, Catholics.
Yeah, but not psychedelic wine. Just some cheap shit off the bottom shelf, But I guess for them, they use it as a symbol, right? Like, this is the body of Christ, and he wants to be one with you, and that's part of his sacrifice, But I think what the book pointed out is like we've completely missed the point of it. He's used that as a way to sort of actually show you, not just like, listen, just believe me. He wanted to show you. But what made it more fucked up is that he compared it to, again, the Greek god Dionysus, and there's an aspect of the Dionysian cult where there's a ritual where they would chew on the flesh of a goat to signify chewing on his flesh, and drinking the blood was like drinking his blood, which is similar to how Jesus explained, this is my blood, take it of me, blah, 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 this is my body, So there's so much crossover that it makes you question everything. Like, I was on the fence before. Now I'm really on the fucking fence, Because for me, I believe there's God, I'm just skeptical of religion. That's all I am. Now, like, look, listen. If you see me burning in hell, I'll be like, okay, I was wrong. I was fucking wrong. But that's kind of just where I'm sitting at the moment. And I don't know if it's trauma from my upbringing and being forced to go to church all the time and things like that. But it's just a tough thing for me to swallow.
Because if you think about every religion in the world, like, who's right? I mean, you're only right wherever you're born. If you're born in India and your parents are a Buddha, you're going to be that, right? So no one's got control where they're born, right?
No. And I guess that's why there were many wars waged all over the world for religious reasons. Look at the Crusades, that they believed they were true. The Muslims were protecting themselves and trying because they believed they were true. Look at the Hindus and all that war and stuff like that. The Shiites and it's a lot of terrible things has happened in the name of religion. We can all say that even if you're hardcore fucking like I am pro Catholic. Like if you read the history books and look at the damage that's caused during those times, it's horrendous, fucking horrendous shit. Did you know anything about the Crusades that happened at the beginning when the Crusaders first took over Jerusalem?
Were they trying to get rid of the Muslims?
Yeah.
It was a battle way.
Yeah,
Muslims versus.
They fucking massacred everyone, not just the women, children. They said it was so bad, like it was like a river of blood running through the streets. Like it was fucking just like come on. Like you can't look at that and say like, oh no, they're just fighting, in the name of God. Do you really think that that's what he wanted? Like, yeah, this is hindsight, right? We can look back in hindsight and we can judge them with our 2022 standards. But you can't tell me that was a good thing at the time. And you can't tell me that even at that time, they 100% believed that this is what they should be doing. Because the people who went on crusades was not just all knights and royalty and upper class people. No, there was a lot of people who were criminals and stuff like that because they went with the promise of having all their sins forgiven. So you can imagine just these people had some pretty fucked up sort of personalities.
Well, I understand this all happened before the Western world started. Like the Western world started off the back of the Enlightenment, when they figured out that the best way to live for human beings to live is this way. There's rules, don't kill.
Do you not think that those rules were there then? Because a lot of those rules were pushed by the Catholic Church, and by then the Catholic Church was quite big.
Yeah, I think
in Europe
back then was religion was the dominant force back then. Religion told you how to live. I think religion those days made society.
Yeah.
Rather than having the government and all that kind of stuff.
Well, when we talk about government, we just talk about people who are in control of society at the time.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was most of it were monarchies, kings and stuff like that. So, but they were beholden to the Catholic Church.
Yes, especially Spain and
those
Spain,
kind of England, France, all of those stuff. So, I think they had the rules then. They had the 10 Commandments then. But this is the same thing about power. Is that people Sorry, Dad, but I think the church at the time used it for their own gain. I think a lot of them. I can imagine.
Well, the Christians said that thou shalt not kill, as long as you're Christian.
Yeah,
you can kill if you're not Christian, but
yeah,
you can't kill
because they thought
Christians.
of them as infidels, right? They followed them as lesser. So, but that's just another excuse to sort of to do what they think they needed to do. And people do it now. They spin it in a way. The war in Iraq, spin it in a way to suit their narrative. So it's nothing new. So that's the thing, right? It's even the things we see now. Like it's nothing new. Like people in power spin stories to fit what they need to fit. Which is crazy, because what the fuck, as the usual fucking people like me and you on the street, like what the fuck can we do? If that's the actual case, right? If that's the actual case, that we're being manipulated and controlled from a higher level, even to a point where we're not actually conscious of it all. What do we do? What can we do about it if we don't even know we're consciously being sort of managed in that way?
If you read the book Sapiens, he talks about how humans needed to figure out how to not so much control, but to sort of, like if you have a group of people in your village and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, when it comes to a point where you can't
Can't sustain.
can't sustain.
Yeah.
So you need something else to make people understand, and that's when sort of the first kind of beliefs of of a religion sort of came into play, because now people outside, because it's too much to say, so you need to get the people outside in line, so they have to all believe in something and they have a leader. So that's how it's sort of the beginnings of it.
So the evolvement of religion was mostly to do with control. I can believe that.
Yeah.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, depends who the leader is, because it can be corrupted at the same time.
Well,
because they even came off the monarchy stuff. Like you're just as good as your oldest son you're gonna have, and he might be an asshole. You can't vote on the leader those times.
No,
it's who's the next in line.
The one thing that we can say that is super consistent is that power is power. Now, how people hold it and how people exert it changes over the years. It's gone from overt to more covert. But power is power. People want power. People want to hold power. So that's something that we can almost guarantee, for the rest of our fucking lives if we don't upload ourselves into the metaverse, that is, and if we continue down this kind of current pathway. But people will always look to maintain and hold and gain more and more power, So look, maybe that makes you sleep better at night, knowing that at least, if we can sort of identify that, like, because it makes sense, right? If you look at everything that people in power do, whether it's government or business people or, leaders, even if you break it down to team leaders, kind of most of the things they do is to try and maintain power, Now that may look different, from a lower level, it's maintaining your job as a boss or a coordinator, maintaining your job, go a bit higher, maintaining your job as a minister, maintaining your job as a prime minister, all the way up to sort of presidential stuff, right? But what they all have in common and the things that they do, the moves that they make, to me, looks like they're trying to maintain power, Because why would you go for those positions if you didn't want power, I reluctantly take this job as the president of the United States. I don't want it. But I have to take it. No, they want to,
So is it disguised with, how democracy gets invented, right? The democracy comes along, and that sort of controls the power thing. Because it's like, okay, we're not gonna have the same leader. You're not gonna have a dictator anymore. There's gonna be a different leader every so often.
I think democracy was probably humankind's attempt to make that a little bit more better, because it makes sense. It's not regulated to one person; it's multiple people. But then again,
and the people vote.
The people in the Senate, where democracy first started, those people were pretty powerful to become even senators, to have a say. So it still revolves around power,
Just looks different.
Yeah, it just looks different. Well, like I said, how it's exerted is different, because people would make backroom deals, this and that, like, oh, look, let's stab Caesar, because we want the power. He's got too much power. They will do what they need to do to stay being a senator. So I think that's the one thing we can almost guarantee is a driving force for the world, is that people want power and will do what they need to do. I don't know. What do you think drives the world? What do you think sort of keeps things ticking along? Do you think it's the goodness of people's hearts or love? What do you think keeps things running, really?
I think it's a whole lot of things. I think first and foremost, as human beings, we need food, shelter, and love. Those are the things you can fall back on. But then extra stuff, there's power. It's trying to get control of something. Whether it be you're the head of the family, whether you're supervisor at work, just little things like that. But then, you always want more. So what drives you is that competition, is wanting more and more and more. And this day and age, it's even worse because technology, social media, and money, now all you want is more and more. Even the rich want more. I mean...
So you agree with me, power runs the world?
Yeah.
So driving, so all, and I think like it's a sad thing to sort of realize, and other people have differing opinions, but I think if you break it down, it's exactly what we say. We're always trying to get more.
Yeah, we're always trying to get more. We're trying to get more power. It depends how you like you said, exert that power. You exert it for bad or good, selfish reasons, or to empower others.
But it's still going for power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's the only way we can get shit done. You
Yeah.
need to have that power. Otherwise, who the fuck are you?
Because that's the system we've got, and they say, the Western world says, this is the system we have. This is the best system we've got right now for society to move forward, and it can be corrupted. We understand that. The United States is a good example.
Oh, they will never. They will never say that. Like they'll never say we're corrupted. But you know what? We're just gonna let things run. You know.
But see, that comes from capitalism. I think capitalism can get to a point where it just corrupts.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I'm trying to think of something positive that's not about corruption and stuff, because we've already established that eventually, you get caught up with the whole machine, that you just end up being part of the machine that runs it, whether you are conscious about it or not.
But see, that's when we get to that stage, then everything goes thrown out the window. Why are we here in the first place, right? If that's where we know we're going to end up, I think because when technology allows us to know what happens where we end up, then we're fucked. Because we're not supposed to know what happens when we die. You know?
Why not? Why do you think that'll change things? If we say for example, some amazing scientist figures out a way to find out that heaven exists, right? Heaven and hell exist, and this is, for argument's sake, it's been proven, right? What do you think will change in terms of us being people? Knowing that when we die, there's either heaven or hell. What it said in the Bible is true.
Because I think what will happen is that we won't have anything to live for anymore. We won't have anything to live for in this life.
You don't think so?
Because I think not knowing what we're going to be means that we'll do the best we can in this life right now. Like, I think that whole thing about living your best life and that whole thing about making the most of it gets thrown out the window. Because you know what's going to happen when you die.
But you don't, because there's like the heaven or hell aspect, right? So if you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you go to hell. No. I probably disagree, slightly on that, because I think when people say, look, we need to live our best life, we only live once, I think that's an indication that actually we're here for a short time, and we need to sort of make the most of it before we die. As opposed to if you didn't know or didn't care what happened to you in the next life, I don't think anything matters. There needs to be something driving us to do things, right? And I think if we knew, and I guess the argument is like, if we knew that there's a heaven and there's a hell, like we know that that's the case, no one wants to fucking go to hell. I think if there was some way to do that, I think people will start becoming good
at the end of their life.
Possibly, but there's always going to be that group of people like atheists who's like, yeah, I don't believe that. Like, yeah, you've proven it to that degree, but I'm still, skeptical.
I think it's true if you get people. I mean, you're in the industry. You probably know people that don't care about life.
The porn industry, yeah.
People that don't care about life. They wanna. They like the Luca Brasi's of the world. On The Godfather, like he's got the guy that he's not scared of death. He's just a crazy motherfucker. He's asking for someone to kill him, and until that time comes, he's just gonna be a crazy motherfucker and do anything he wants.
Is Luca Brasi the one who got choked to death in the bar? Yeah. See, I've got a different take on that. I don't think he was not afraid of dying. I think he was so loyal and so caught up with his "what can I do for you" that it didn't even cross his mind. Because I think if you didn't want to die, he wouldn't have made that a big fight over dying. You know what I mean?
But that was why he was so loyal, because the only person he was scared of was the Godfather.
Was it fear? Because loyalty and fear are I guess they can be hand in hand. Like can you really force loyalty though? I don't think so. I think loyalty comes from respect and, something deeper than fear. Because fear, you can't guarantee fear. Like if you like dictators, right? You can't guarantee. Like, there's a reason why dictators kill lots of motherfuckers, because they know they're not loyal, and they're not going to be loyal, because you know deep down that you're probably a bad motherfucker, not in a good way, like a terrible person, right? But the loyalty aspect is a little bit different. I think that's earned more than anything else. And if you've earned someone's loyalty, that's quite a big thing.
I think because of audiobooks, I was reading the book. So in the book, he talks about why he's loyal to
The fear.
the Godfather, because his only fear was if the Godfather wanted to kill him. That was his only fear.
So then I would argue that that's not loyalty, but that's me. I would argue that is subservient obedience.
Yeah.
As opposed to loyalty.
It is exactly that.
Yeah, I think it's more obedience than loyalty. Because, like I said, I don't think you can buy loyalty with fear. Loyalty is like something much, much deeper on a cellular level in your body. So like, yeah, what was the point of us talking about Luca Brasi?
So I was talking about crazy people that don't give a fuck about
life,
like dying, and they'll just go do stupid things because they're not afraid of dying.
That's different compared to some of the people out there. That's more like a sociopath or a psychopath that just don't really think. I mean, something because they have the inability to, and have very poor understanding of social norms and things like that. The people I deal with, they've gone through lots of trauma in their life, have had a lot of things not work out for them, have had the hard lives. And if you put yourself in their position, which I have to on more often than not, to try and understand and be and have a lot of empathy for them, you can understand why a person would feel that way, So if you let's take ourselves for example. We have days when we're sad, right? There's things that happen to us in our lives that makes us really sad. Probably not depressed, but like, really sad. You cry, you sort of that, because sadness is a normal human emotion, right? You shouldn't not be sad. If it's something that makes you sad, that's a good thing. You feel something. You're not a robot. The people I deal with sometimes have an extreme response in that sense, to the point where it's a combination of the life that they've lived, but also the chemical imbalances as well. So there's actually a physical sort of response to that as well. So what we would sort of be sad, and then we bounce back and we kind of carry on. They find that very difficult, and if you've lived that way for like years, it's very hard to sort of come out of that, even with meds, so it is very difficult. The Luca Brasi thing is a little bit different because he is he was driven by, I guess we've established it, by obedience, right? Obedience and subserviency and fear, of being killed. Well, as these people want to die because and this is just a generalization, because for them they think it's easier. It's easier than sort of going through what they're going through at the moment. So that's a tough thing to try and sit with someone who has that feeling and that belief and has had it for years, and try and convince them, oh, don't do that, that there's and it really takes a lot of skill and a lot of patience and a fuck ton of empathy to try and sort of support these people, because they deserve the help, and I get caught up with this too, and a lot of clinicians get frustrated because we try and it feels like we don't get very far sometimes, and it's heartbreaking just to sort of go through that, because our job is to try and help people to sort of be better, for lack of a better word, and to try that on a day-to-day basis and not really get much traction in it. It's a tough job to have,
for mental health workers like yourself, and mental health nurses like you and LJ, it must really affect your guys. Does it affect your guys' mental as well? Like, you say these people are dealing with their symptoms for years. Like you guys doing this as a full-time job.
Mm.
Will it get to the point where you guys, because you're dealing with them, these
Yeah.
people for a long time, will it affect you guys? How you guys think?
I think there's always that risk. I mean, you can't go through this job and not have some form of emotional impact happen to you. Okay, as much as we can, we check ourselves. We make sure that we're doing okay. And there's multiple ways that we do that. We have peer-to-peer support. We have supervision where we discuss issues. We have access to therapies if we need to, if we go through a traumatic event. But yeah, look, it does. It's definitely shaped the way that I look at the world and my life. It's made me more grateful for the things that I have than I didn't before. I do think I find myself very, very lucky to be in the position that I am now. But I also realize that that hard work actually makes a big difference. Being able to work on yourself makes a big impact, And look, there's plenty of cases where nurses go through traumatic events, and it's a consistent traumatic trauma after trauma after trauma. And we're just human beings at the end of the day. Of course, it's going to impact us, and we get depressed, and and we get traumatized. Depending on what the situation you've been in. Especially in mental health, there's nurses that get assaulted on a daily basis. There's nurses that get threatened. I get threatened quite often. And we get, the hardest part is actually when families kind of blame you for losses. I find that probably one of the hardest aspects. Unfortunately, we do end up having clients that successfully end their lives, and the fallout is actually really, really difficult to deal with, because there's protocols and things that needs to follow through. We don't usually do it. It's usually our managers and stuff like that kind of go through and liaise with the thing. But there has been instances where I'll tell a story of a situation that happened to me that's impacted me quite seriously. I was working with this boy, and very, very difficult to follow up. He was kind of doing his own thing, had a head injury, used a lot of substances and stuff like that. But he had a mental health diagnosis on top of everything. I had just finished organizing a placement for him for drug and alcohol support, where he'd go and live there kind of for like 18 months, where they'd support him with drug and alcohol stuff while still receiving treatment from me. And I was sick one day when he was due for his medication, and so it wasn't an urgent thing. Sometimes we're sick and then we just push things to the next day. It's not that big of a deal. So I came back from being sick and then looked on my schedule. Oh, I need to go see this guy. So, pack my bag, head down to the house, knock on the door. And then this person opens it. I've never met this person. This person, the guy, lives with his mom and his father. I open the door and there's this lady standing there. I'm wondering who this is. No, sorry. The mom opens the door, and then asks, "Oh, is blah 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 here?" And then she just starts tearing up and walks away. And then this lady comes to the door, and I've never met this lady before. And then she identifies herself as this guy's sister, and then she goes, "Oh, he's killed himself," And that's the first shock I got. I was just like, "What the fuck?" I literally just saw this guy, earlier in the week, And so that happened, and then next thing I get is the dad walks out of the door from one of the side rooms, and he just starts going off at me, just screaming at me, just saying like, "It's your fault. You should have done more." Just going at me, and then I start backing up. I'm trying to sort of, I understand where the dad's coming from. He's just lost his son, and he's just yelling and really making a big scene. So I step back. I'm standing kind of in the driveway, and he's kind of approaching me and yelling at me. All the fucking neighbors come out, wondering, like, nosy Westies, just wanting to know what the fuck's happening. And I allow him to do it. I allow him to do it for about 5 minutes. And then by then, well, I'm assuming it's 5 minutes, but I allowed him to have his event. And then, I decided, look, I apologized. I told him I didn't know. And then I said, I'm going to leave, but someone will be in touch. And I left. And that's kind of sat with me for a long time, is that something that I was working really hard on to try and support a person. I was trying really hard. And he wasn't the easiest person to work with, And to get that kind of reception from his family, and to me, in my deepest emotions and my thoughts and things like that, I feel like I had done everything possible that I can do. Like, nothing's perfect, right? Obviously, nothing, but I feel like with what I had, I did everything that I could at that time. And it really fucking sucks to have the family view you in that way, knowing that you've gone above and beyond, like we do with everyone that we try, to try and manage these guys and things like that. And the way that the family received me, after having a pretty good relationship with them, mind you, for all these years, was really fucking traumatic. I didn't know what to do. I came back, talked to my coordinator, like, look, this is the situation. I had no idea this had happened. Family kind of, this, that, and the other. And ended up just getting told, no, look, you can go home. I don't think you should be here today. Go home, try and settle yourself down and things like that. But what really stood with me was like how quickly things in my industry can change in the terms of just the other week, the family were very happy with me, happy that we're going to go through with this placement and things like that, to absolutely, this is your fucking fault. You are the reason that he's killed himself and all this stuff. And fuck, it's just like, I don't think there's a lot of people out there that could say, look, you're being blamed for someone's fucking suicide. On top of that, I don't really work in an industry that's represented fairly in the media. So that's the first thing that came to my mind, and fear was like, fuck, they're going to go to the media. They're going to, they're going to tell their version of the story, and that's what the media wants to pick up on, and it's not fear of losing my job. I know I did everything. I wouldn't give two fucking flying fucks if the media tried to interview me and do this shit. Cause I know deep down that what I did was everything I could at the time.
Mm. That feeling, everything you could do at the time, is how strong was that feeling for you to get through it?
Not at the time. At the time, you can't help but question yourself. I think that's a natural response. What could I have done? What should I have done? What could I have done better? I think that's a natural. You should. If you don't think that way, I think there's something really wrong with you. If you don't think that there's a possibility that you could have done more, you can always do more. But the issue is that it's not about what can we do more. It's like what can we do at the time that we have. I don't sit with this guy every single day. I don't spend the whole 8 hours of my shift with this guy trying to work with him and trying to get this stuff done. At most, I probably spend 2 hours with him when I see him. And we try and formulate what needs to happen, what we need to do, organize the right supports in place and things like that. But it took me a while, maybe a couple weeks, to sort of come to terms with the entire thing. And the sad thing is, and this is for the family too, you don't get closure with suicides. You can't sort of, because it's not natural. It's not like if someone passes away due to like a heart attack or something like that. Like it's a traumatic fucking thing, but you can accept that because it's kind of like you can understand it. People who kill themselves, it's like fuck. We could, if you had just waited, if you had just like allowed it a little bit more time. Maybe we could have done something. Maybe we couldn't. But you'll never know. You'll never understand what was going through his mind at the time, what emotions he was feeling, what issues he was experiencing at the time. And I'm gonna have to fucking live with that for the rest of my life. Is that I'll never fucking know what really drove this man to sort of decide that being alive was no longer an option for him. So, you know, so that's an example, right? Is that we deal with these things all the time, and it's complicated because it's not just, you know, the client that we're working with. We're working with his entire, you know, support network. That's his family. That's his friends. That's everything, you know. And we're the easiest group to blame when things don't go right, you know. So that's something we have to, you know, a burden we have to bear is being aware that, you know, as much as people think we're helpful at the time, they will easily drop you in the shit and make you feel like you are the worst fucking human being alive. And I did feel that way, you know. I did feel that way for a long time. It's like, fuck, you know, maybe if I, you know, had if someone had gone and seen him the day before, or, you know, if I'd spent a little bit more time with him. Those are the normal questions you ask yourself, you know. And it really makes you think whether this fucking job is for you at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah, it really it tests you, eh?
It really does, man. And you know, I take my hat off to the people who's done this job for like 20 plus years and still able to sort of keep that passion and that belief that, you know, that you are helping people, because we do. You know, that is like one aspect of what we do. You know, the things that don't get seen is all the positive stuff. You know, the people that don't fucking kill themselves because they're getting support, not just from us, but like from everyone, you know. So it's a difficult industry, man. Like, it is. I'm biased because I work in mental health, but I think it's one of the hardest nursing jobs you can do, you know.
You know, when an event like that happens at your work, like what sort of assessment happens after that, in terms of like how, when they try to understand what happened and what they can do to make things better for the next next case.
Well, that's exactly what happens.
Because I'm thinking about all the noise that's going on social media with mental health in this country. Like, I've heard a lot of complaints about, fuck, the government's putting all this money in and the problem's not going away. What are they doing? Like, you know, there's that in the background, and then, you know, you're telling me about the story, and it's like to me it's like a uphill battle. It feels like an uphill battle, and then with all the noise, like, you know, how much money are they throwing in there, and it's still not working?
Yeah, man. Look, there was that massive mental health budget that came out like, what was it, 3 years ago or something like that. From my point of view and what I've seen, because this was a budget particularly for mental health, right? It wasn't like, oh, this is the new healthcare budget. No, this is like a couple million, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. What was it like? It was a decent amount. It was a significant amount of money, like $102 million or something. I don't know why 102 came to mind. But it was
But they gave some more when COVID happened. They gave more.
I have not seen that money manifest itself in any fucking shape or form in terms of what we need to do. And that is the frustrating part, you know, is that look, we've given you guys money. And that's probably true. You know, part of the money is there, but whoever is fucking controlling where the money gets spent needs to be fucking fired, you know? Because as much as people, you know, like, oh, let's look at policy, let's look at this and management and all this shit, none of it has come into in the form of something tangible that I've seen. We've had no new extra nurses come through. We've had no extra doctors put on the floor, you know? Things to me that's the real impact, is having people available to go out there and do the work. You know, not more. We've developed this new team where we discuss what's the next best thing in terms of treatment, things like that. Those are important, but there's the shit that needs to happen now. You know, there's people now that needs to support, and look, the big reason why there's this big change in there's no more DHBs, by the way. You know,
It's changed now. Yeah, it's one nation.
Yeah, it's Health
thing.
in New Zealand. It's
Yeah.
It's
So how does that work now? How does that?
I don't fucking know. I don't know, man. I think it's I think it was only changed in name. I don't really think anything's really going to change. I mean, I have a lot of hopes for the Maori Health Authority. You know, that they're going to make some significant changes, in that aspect. But I doubt it. You know, because mind you, all the changes that's being made, it's still the same motherfuckers up there. You know, like, yeah, sure, we've changed the name, but
The
what
system's still there.
the system's still there? You know, I don't believe in this thing where they say like, oh, the access to healthcare and things like that is different because the different DHBs offer different things. Yeah, different DHBs offer different things because they're catering to the population that they're allocated to. That's the reason. I'm not advocating DHBs, but to tell me that there is an inequity or inequality because there's different DHBs is bullshit. You can be from fucking Whangarei, come down to Auckland, and it's not like they're gonna turn you away and say go fuck off back to Whangarei and use their hospital DHBs. That's not fucking happening. Maybe there's some instances in terms of surgery and things like that, but the DHBs were basically just to me, what I noticed is that the DHBs were just set up as a way to allocate funds on how we manage that particular population. It wasn't actually there to segregate different people just because you live out of area. Like if you had like a cardiac event or something, right, and you're outside of Auckland, do you think they'll chuck you in an ambulance and drive your ass back to Auckland? No, they'll treat you right then and there. Because at the end of the day, it's all socialized medicine. It's all one thing. So I look at it in a way where it's like when they changed SIFs, and they changed the name to Wanaka Tamariki.
Yeah.
Did that fucking make a difference? No, because they only changed the fucking name. Now, if they change the system within, it doesn't fucking show. It's still fucked. And I work with them very closely. They're a bunch of mean motherfuckers, man. They are burnt out. They are unsupported, and they feel unsupported too. So the name change, oh, fuck. I don't think it's changed much. It's probably given them like, ooh, look what we've done. We've lowered the barriers for accessing healthcare. Fuck off. Everyone can access healthcare. Everyone can access healthcare.
The problem I had with the old system, looks like it's not even changed, was you had to go to your GP first before you go to a specialist. Like, why can't you go to a specialist if you know something's wrong with your knee? Why can't you go straight to a knee guy?
Do you know there's something wrong with your knee?
Or there's pain in your eye, go to an eye guy. Or go to an eye guy. Go to an elbow, foot specialist. Something wrong with your foot. Go there. Why do you have to go to a...
Well, that has nothing to do with the DHBs, though. That's just how things are set up to try and ease the referral. So that's just socialized medicine's downfall. Well, not really downfall per se, but that's the struggles. Is that we've got so many people and not enough knee specialists or eye specialists. There's just not enough. So what do? They make you jump through a couple of hoops to try and slow down the referral so that they can kind of try and work through the referrals they have now. It's just a barrier, right? It's just a barrier. That's not going to change now. Do you think just because we've changed the name that we're like, oh, something's wrong with my knee, you go see your GP first and then let him make a referral for a specialist? It's going to be the same, So that's not the GP's fault and everything. We just have a lack of everything. Lack of nurses, lack of specialists, and lack of doctors. We just have less of everything, And I don't know what the real reason for that is, at the end of the day.
Well, we can look at the specialists leaving this country and going to Australia.
Well,
the first thing.
Well, money, look, I think money is important. Money is a great way to sort of motivate you to stay. But money can only go so far. I think you could work in the most, the best fucking job in the world, and you're getting paid an okay amount, as opposed to working a shitty job but getting paid heaps of money. I think the person working the pretty good job and is happy is more likely to last longer.
The flexible job.
The work. Yeah, if you're allowed to work from home, So look, is it an issue with how our system is structured? Yeah, most likely. You know, um, because there's no perfect system. You know, I wouldn't want the American system where we're based on, if you have insurance, then that's it. And then, but the thing about but it has its positives too. Because if you're insured, you get treatment like that. No waiting, no nothing. You fucking get in there, get it done, sorted.
And I guess the doctors
But
get
you
paid
have
more.
and the doctors get paid more.
So they
But
stay.
you pay for what you get. So quality is kind of, depending on how much you can afford. Socialized healthcare was what we have. Everyone has access, which is a good thing, right? Healthcare is a human need.
But the service might be less.
Well, you whatever you get is what you get. You know, we look. We provide fucking amazing service. I think with the difficulties we've had over the years with COVID, and even prior to that with the lack of funding, understanding, all that, blah, blah, blah. I think we provide an excellent fucking service,
But if you watch the news, they talk about
But
no nurses working
That's been for years, though, hasn't it?
overtime.
yeah.
Can't find anyone.
Yeah. They asked me for overtime today. I said,
Yeah.
no, I'm all right. Because I don't want to, But yeah, it is a big issue, It's a massive fucking issue. And I don't know if changing the name didn't do shit. You know what the most fucked up thing is? You think as, the workers, I'm turning into a socialist, we the workers. No, but the people who actually run the DHB in terms of delivering treatment, delivering service, the doctors and the nurses, and the OTs, and in case everyone said like, oh, what about me? All of them, social workers, the whole lot. We found out the same day as every other motherfucker in New Zealand that we were changing, that the DHBs were getting scrapped. So we got in an email, actually, by the way, we are going to be, and that's kind of fucked up. That's kind of fucked up that they would announce it in that way to us, because they didn't explain whether there was job security. They didn't explain whether things would change. It was I was fucking like, what the fuck does that mean? Everyone was walking to the manager like, what the fuck does this mean?
Like you expect a meeting, like
well, a heads up.
Yeah.
Even like a couple of weeks beforehand, it's like, look, there's been a discussion. The government has decided we're going to scrap the DHBs. This is what you can expect. Like, nothing's finalized, but this is what you can expect. Is that too much to ask? Is it really too much to ask to the people that are actually look, if we decide to just fuck off and decide, look, we're not going to do this anymore, the entire fucking system would crumble. Like, I'd like to see some fucking managers go out there and try and de-escalate someone high on meth. Fucking good luck, And it was disrespectful. It was really disrespectful for all the shit that we go through, And at the height of COVID, I think is when they announced it too. Who knows, Yeah, look, anyone looking to get into healthcare, I respect that decision. It's a noble profession, I do believe that. But whatever movie you've seen or watched where it gives you all this prestige and throw that out the fucking window. We are treated like every other motherfucker out there. We're treated like every person out there. Yeah, we're shit.
So the sounds to me the support you need is getting rid of the workload. There's too much work for. There's too much work for what you guys are capable of doing each week.
It is
day in, day out. You need more staff.
It's resources. We need resources.
More resources. Yeah. More staff.
And look, it's not as simple as throwing more nurses at it. Because I think there's been plenty of studies to show that it actually doesn't help. Throwing more and more nurses at it. I think it helps to a certain degree, but it doesn't fix the underlying problem. It's just the entire thing, I think the more nurses would help in the short run, but where do you get those nurses from? There's no nurses. Everyone's fucking leaving. Do we increase the pay? Which government is going to agree to do that? What is equal pay? What should nurses be actually paid? Who knows? Healthcare workers. Let's just say healthcare workers, because it's not just nurses. Who the fuck knows?
Do you know what happens? Do you know what happened to the healthcare, mental health care back in the days? Like what was it like? Like in the 80s?
I have spoken to people who nurse during that time because they're still around. They're still around. And it's all in all the same. And I'm talking about mental health in particular. But what was more common, you see, was the old bins. Not loony bins, but like those big facilities that housed many people with mental health issues, and they pretty much lived there, all the time. And then there was a big movement in the late 80s or the early 80s where the view was that these facilities were not helpful because they kept them institutionalized, and they moved to treating them at home. And that's all fine and good, trying to reintegrate them back into society. That was the push. The issue is that not everyone has that ability because they're so people can be so unwell even on treatment that integration is almost impossible. Not to mention these people become super vulnerable, and get exploited on a daily basis. So when we removed the I don't want to say loony bin because it's not a nice word.
The facilities.
The facilities. When we removed the long-term facilities, we were left with a subgroup of people, a small amount, mind you, of people who became homeless, were unable to be followed up, couldn't keep a house, because they just couldn't deal with it. And we still see that now. There's certain groups of people that just, no matter what recovery support you put in place, they just can't maintain because of the nature of their presentation, So there was some utility to having, in my opinion, there's some utility to having places like that's long-term nursed, for certain groups of people. Because I'm working with a few facilities that's the new version of it, and it's actually pretty shit.
Because there are still facilities.
There is some, but not in the sense where it's like big places. It's just like it's like houses that's been slightly renovated to sort of become like facility-like places. But
I wonder if the decision back then in the 80s was a money decision to stop doing it, or medical, or
it's probably
better for the.
It's probably both. It's probably both. I mean, it was not a good system. There's a lot of people that, mind you, they didn't have the medications and treatments at that time. So we've come a long way since then in terms of what we provide for treatment and supports. So there was a lot of people that were put in ICU, and what's the actual word for it? It's basically when there was a person that was so unmanageable, they would put them in a room with low stimulus and kind of just lock them in there until they calm down. What's it called? We don't really do that now, but I mean we still do it, but at less less frequency. So it wasn't like it was a perfect system, and in a lot of respects it was a worse system just because of the lack of available proper treatments that can help these guys. But there were good aspects to it too. There was a place where even if you were discharged, there was always a bed for these guys if they needed it, if they were homeless, hungry, if they needed something. There was a place for them to go. And a sense of community, that's what I heard from a lot of the nurses, is that, a lot of these guys found that like this is their home, that they have somewhere where they belong, where they're accepted, and, no judgments and things like that. You don't find that out in the community these days, and they are the most ostracized groups in our society, So integration part, yeah, we've had some success for sure, definitely some successes, but there's always going to be
managing of it.
Yeah, there's always a small group of people within the wider group that probably need a little bit more than what integrating back into society can sort of actually do for them. Yeah, so no. I don't think the 80s was a great time for the mental health aspect, yeah.
Because all it did, I think, was just to get them out of the way of public eye. Because you never saw...
Yeah.
Now...
They were a disruption. They were segregated. They wanted to segregate them out of society. I guess mental health. There's always something new happening every year, right? There's new discoveries, more research coming through, and things like that. And I think we have a really, really good understanding now of how things were. The 80s, I think they're just winging it. Really, there was some research in some ways of how to treat them and things like that, but they were really just sedating the living shit out of them. I think, Have you seen that movie? God, it's
Leonardo DiCaprio one.
no. It's with the guy who plays Venom, in the
Tom
Hardy,
yeah.
and he's a prisoner. That was like one of England's most dangerous prisoners back in like the.
Was it Pompeo or something?
Yeah, and he changed his name to sort of like his fighter name, and he became like that person. Had a big mustache, bald. Oh God, it's just such a good movie.
It's back in the days when they got the stripes there.
Yeah. So there's a scene in there where he's treated in a mental health facility, and they drug the living shit out of him so much that he's just like there on a chair drooling, and he just fucking just catatonic almost. Yeah. That's what I imagine it used to be.
Well, when I think about those kind of movies, I think of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Have you seen that one? With Jack Nicholson?
Yeah.
And, man, that practice of lobotomy, the thing in the,
that was crazy.
That was that's. Was that they thought that was the easy way for them? Like,
well, they didn't know any other way. Well, I think that the idea was they kind of knew which part of the brain had to do with the aggression and stuff like that. So if they removed that aspect, that was done.
Shucks.
But what they did was just fucking ruin people's lives, man. Absolutely. Just absolutely ruin people's lives. So, like, mental health is a weird ass area of healthcare, man, because it's there's more gray areas than black and white, And students come to terms with that very quickly. It's like, oh, this is what we learned in school. This is what we learned,
doesn't mean shit anymore.
No, all that shit. Forget that shit. All right, let me show you what it's like, and it's very different. What's shocking with most of them is that, especially the ones who live out west, they realize, fuck, have these things always been here? Are these people always lived there? Because I never noticed them. Like the shock that these people are so like, integrated to society to the point where it's like you notice these people, but you don't pay a second attention to them, and then it's not until you're actually working with them you're like, oh, holy shit, damn, didn't realize this was happening and things like that. So it's specialized for a reason. There's a reason why you have to do an extra year of study to sort of deal with it, because it's very complicated. It's very complicated.
Do you see light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel, like in terms of like moving forward to really giving help to mental health and bringing the stats down? I
have to. Otherwise, what the fuck's the point of me grinding and struggling on a day-to-day basis to try and help better people's lives? I have to, If there was no light at the end of the tunnel, like nothing is, like we're going to be doing the same shit over and over and over again, that would be so demoralizing for me, Every clinician, but not just us, but like, the actual clients that we work with, they need to see a fucking light at the end of the tunnel too. There has to be a reason or an end game to all of this stuff. Well, no, not an end game. That's probably not a good analogy, but they need. Well, there needs to be something to show for all the struggles and stuff. There's got to be, I'm always encouraged by the fact that there's nonstop research going on how to sort of make things better. So I'm always encouraged by that. And I do think so. I do think at some point we're going to get to a stage where we figured out, okay, this is what drives them. Someone's going to come up with some new medication that's going to, help these people gain more and more control back into their lives, And look, and this is, and if they do, I'm out of a job, but that's fine, because that's like working with these guys for so long. Like, why wouldn't you want them to be, to have a magic pill and fix all that stuff that they're dealing with, there's some gnarly shit that these people go through, you know what I mean? So,
is it the case of just taking that gnarly shit away? It started at the beginning, like, when we talk about prevention, preventing someone growing up into mental health, like, is it to do with, a lot of it's going to be to do with having trauma when they're young.
Yep.
And some of that trauma might be, I don't know, within a cycle of maybe it can be poverty, maybe it's just
generational trauma.
Generational trauma. Maybe it's, if you're on the other side of the scale, like depression from being your parents are too rich and they don't have time for you. Or
well, they're all different,
different
problems, eh?
Yeah.
They're all different problems.
Yeah. How can has anyone identified if it was trauma, then if you want to take that trauma away, what would help? What would half the problem when they grow up? Is that the sort of thing people they look at when they?
Oh well, we know that if you can have a good upbringing, have stay away from drugs, don't have any significant head injuries, be loved, have all the things that would be, your likelihood of developing a mental health diagnosis or disorder is really, really low.
That if that's the case, then why can't we change that? Make sure that families look after.
It comes down to that generational trauma stuff, right? We can't account for every single family in the world or in New Zealand. Let's just keep to New Zealand, right? Some families are so intertwined with the generational trauma that they don't even know they're doing it, so there's like abuse, and it kind of goes down that drives a lot of that. There's the genetic component to it, so if someone in your family had schizophrenia for and in the right circumstances, that can manifest itself as you become symptomatic, and that will become something that you start experiencing. Substances is a big part of that. A lot of people have drug-induced psychosis where they present with like symptoms of schizophrenia, but it's driven by drugs. Usually, if you stop the drugs, the symptoms go away. But if you use drugs long enough, you fuck up your brain so much that you develop, non-stop psychosis anyway.
What's the biggest culprit? Is it meth?
Meth at the moment, yes. Meth seems to be a really big driving factor because of just how detrimental it is to your brain and things like that. But I think you also have to have some genetic predisposition to schizophrenia to have like a proper full relapse to a certain degree. Trauma as well. I think trauma also plays a big part in that because there's a lot of high functioning people on meth. Look at all the fucking builders. That's a good example. And that's what makes mental health very difficult. Everything's individual. We can't sort of just have a blanket statement like this is all the stuff that you need to. This is the criteria. If you meet all this criteria, you're likely to develop schizophrenia. I mean, there is an understanding that if in the right circumstances, this may present, but not always. So it's like, like you have two twins that live in the same household, experience the same trauma. One may develop, schizophrenia. One may not. So it's very individual. It's very individual. You can't really sort of just say, look, it's kind of like smoking in a way. Smoking. We know smoking causes cancer, but not everyone fucking gets cancer when they smoke, do they? So it's similar to that. If I had to make another analogy, Captain analogy here. Fucking no. Yeah. So look, it's a tough man. It's a tough one because at the end of the day, we're putting out fires more than anything else. We're so overwhelmed with referrals and new people coming through and people relapsing, substance issues that's intertwined with that, gang affiliations, 501s, just general society in general, just society in general. It makes it into a very messy situation, Look, I think we're just barely keeping afloat, I think, as services, and I don't, in terms of the long term, I believe there is a light at the end of the tunnel where things will become a lot more easier and the access to resources will be improved and we'll have more nurses, we'll be less burnt out. In the short term, now we're going to continue to eat a shit sandwich, for the foreseeable future. The only thing I don't want is to have an extra side of fries to that. That's what I don't fucking want.
Yeah.
But who knows, man?
I feel you, man. It's you're right. It feels like you guys just putting out the fires.
Yeah, that's the sucky thing, because we always talk about like, oh, we need to stop being the ambulance at the end of the cliff. Yeah, and they're right. We need to be working on preventative stuff, trying to get in there early and stop things from unfolding and becoming unmanageable. But due to resources and stuff like that, we can't, and people need to realize that too. It's like, the wider public is like, we know we're not stupid. We know that prevention is much more effective than prevention. And then what's the other one? Well, actually dealing with it after the situation has been made. I can't actually think. I can't actually think. But we know prevention is way more effective, But we just don't have the resources to fucking do it. We just don't, And I'll challenge any fucking manager to sort of, that works in healthcare. It's like, oh, we do have the resources. It's like, no, we don't.
And that was evident with that thing that happened in Christchurch recently. Did you hear about that?
The one about the cop?
The
the stabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is one of my greatest fears,
And to me, it felt like that there was just not one extra bed available.
Look, I'll put on my mental health hat and give probably a little bit more context. Like, I don't know the actual case and things like that, but I can only assume this is the situation. So the guy was on leave from hospital, right? And then while he was on leave, he stabbed someone and that person died. When we give people leave from hospital, they have to be at some semblance, like a certain level of wellness before they can go out. We don't just let, you're like, oh, this person's really, really unwell. Oh, but he can go on leave. That doesn't happen, okay? What we have to realize, and what everyone has to realize, is that we have very little control over what these people do when they go out into the public. Did this guy go and use meth? Did he sort of run into some issues? The situation happened where he probably triggered him to become really, really unwell, and then the situation happened. Assumption, I'm assuming, right? So to sort of turn around and go, oh, why'd you let him out? Why'd you let him out in the first place? I was like, these people have rights. These people are human beings too. They're not fucking animals where we can just be like, oh, just fucking cage them up. Let's keep them in cages because they're too dangerous to society. That's not what hospitals for. Hospitals for treatment. And I can only assume that this guy was assessed on the day by his nurse, and he was deemed to be good. There was a plan for him to go on his escorted, on his unescorted leave. It happens all the time, and there was a plan for him to come back. So the real question I have is, what has happened in that period of time of him being assessed that he's well enough to go on leave? And it's usually for like half an hour to an hour you're allowed to go on leave. And what has happened from him leaving hospital to the situation that's happened, And that's a number of things that could have happened. But everyone gets caught up in this mental health fault for letting him go. Look, maybe it wasn't a good idea. I don't know the man's history. I don't know why he's gone to hospital, and I don't know what his relapse symptoms look like. But what I do know is that it's not as straightforward as, oh, we've decided to let him go. Go for a walk, brother. You're really unwell at the moment, but I think you should go for a walk. That's not how things roll, And I think there's not enough emphasis put on what he did, He could just be a fucking terrible motherfucker for all we know, And the psychotic side of things was a minor thing, He could have just been a really bad person, not psychotic at all, and decided that, for whatever reason, stab this person, People need to realize it's not a one-sided thing, Mental health can't control what everyone does, At some point, look, the situation is so unfortunate because someone's lost their life because of what this person did. But people will need to realize that at some point he would have been released from hospital anyway, And would he have done the same thing? Who the fuck knows, But what we do know is that he did kill someone now. So we need to blame someone, And why can't we just wait and hear more and see what's there. I don't know. I heard about the stabbing and I knew that he was under mental services, and I just looked at myself. I was like, fuck. Oh,
I knew when I was listening to the radio and they were grilling the manager, and that was what the manager was saying. He was assessed at the time. He was okay. You had planned for him to leave, planned for him to come back. Unfortunate what happened, but we don't know. And the guy interviewing him, I think it was Mike Hoskins, saying, "Nah, but he was blaming it on the lack of staff. There was no bed available. So you had to let him go.
No, that doesn't work like
There
that.
was lack of staff, to look after him. So
No,
you let
we
him go.
don't.
And I was like, oh, okay.
No, that's look. There's always lack of staff. That's always going to be an issue, and
Yeah,
the
but-
lack of beds too.
But it was good timing because that was on the news. Lack of
Yeah, so
there's lack of nurses in hospitals.
the generalization.
So,
of
yeah,
it
it
all,
was that's where he was coming from.
Like Mike Hosking, like I find him entertaining, but he also speaks on things that he has no fucking clue about.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he's a shock jockey. That's his thing. I really feel for whoever took that interview, man, because fuck, they would have had to have, and that's the case, man. We have to assess. We have to make sure that to the best of our abilities, that we think that this person is well enough to go on leave. He wasn't discharged, mind you. Different if he was discharged. And, because then I would believe there was no bed, there was lack of staff and a discharge. I think that would be different because to me, that's a more believable story. But on leave, you can't be on leave and not have a bed. It's just, you can't do that. Yeah. So yeah, it's, yeah, man. I think we're an easy target for media, because it's always a shocking thing that happened. Because there was a stabbing quite recently here in Auckland too.
North Shore, I think.
Mount Albert as well. He was also a mental health patient
Oh,
too.
was there? Oh, yeah, he killed him, eh?
Mm.
Yeah, that was a month before
Yeah.
the recent one up at North Shore.
Yeah,
Someone walking on around the beach. No one died though. Got stabbed.
yeah. That was a pretty gnarly one, eh? Fucking hell. I don't know if that guy mental health. I think. I don't remember. Can't remember. There's been so many stabbings lately, so it's hard to fucking keep up.
Yeah.
I saw a really stupid video of there was a killing in Brisbane. This young Polynesian boy.
Saw that one. That one was going viral.
Yeah, that was pretty
That was
bad.
pretty sad, eh?
That was. Did you watch the full video?
Oh yeah, it got sent to me. And
Yeah, it got
watched
sent to me in a fucking boys chat, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Played it, and like, "Oh, it's scrap."
Mm.
And the next thing I know, it was a fucking stab. I was like, "Fuck, did that just?" Oh,
Mm.
that's traumatic, man. That is fucking traumatic to watch that happen.
Mm.
Because I always, man, like you just think, fuck, what was going through that boy's mind after he got stabbed?
Well, my initial thought, I was angry at the guy filming it. Like,
Yeah,
what are you doing standing there filming? But then I thought, okay, but that's evidence for the court. So
yeah, but he wasn't
this
recording
guy.
it for evidence, was he?
I know, but the court can use it to
Yeah, yes,
get this
yes,
guy
yes.
convicted.
Yes. Yes, but like, fuck. No, I was like, man, imagine how lonely that must be. Like being stabbed, and then he must have known that was probably it because it was in the neck.
Yeah. I also feel sorry for the family having to have that video go viral and go.
As a constant reminder too, all his family members,
Yeah.
mom, dad, cousins, just watching. Man,
Because I think it was on the Herald too. The Herald reported that video going viral. They didn't have the video itself, but they had a screenshot of the
actual thing.
video. But then they showed all the comments, and people were just being nasty on the comments. I read it, and people were saying, just joking. You should have thought. You should have ducked. And you're too slow and stuff like that.
This is why it's probably not a bad thing if the entire world just ended, because of fucking like I can say I think. Like, I can joke about anything, but I think it's all about timing. Like most good comedians, they talk about timing. Like, you want, why the fuck would you say that then? Maybe like a couple months later, bring it up. Maybe the man should have ducked and dodged. Like.
I just saw. I just bought Andrew Scholes. Did Andrew Scholes, the comedian? I just bought his. I watched his new special.
His new special?
Because he quit Netflix.
Oh, did he?
Because Netflix told him, "Oh, can you cut this part out?"
Oh.
He goes, "What?" Nah. Okay, I'm not.
I respect that.
I'm making my own thing.
I'm surprised Netflix is doing that now because they were quite big on just getting comedians like specials out there, like Dave Chappelle's.
Yeah, exactly. But then I watched the special, and I was wondering which one did they want to cut out because all of it is offensive. Man, he was joking about the Ted Bundy.
Oh yeah,
and he was wondering why. Because he was talking about the line he made to the girls.
Yeah.
Oh, because he drove around and because man, you're the man if you got girls running around that beetle.
Yeah.
The yellow beetle, and his line was to get the woman in the car. He said, "Oh, can you help me fix my car?"
That was his line.
That was his line. And he was joking about that, and it was funny, but it's timing, like.
Oh yeah, of course. It's about timing, man.
That's like years after that happened, but
it probably wouldn't have sat well on the day, on the day that someone went up missing.
But at the same time, I was still thinking about the families that their daughters and granddaughters got killed, and I was thinking, man, if they heard that joke, would they be?
Of course, of course, you'd be offended.
Yeah.
I mean, but it comes back to the principle of what, like, do you think there's a line in comedy? I don't think so. I think everything's up for it.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will probably disagree, but that's my opinion on comedy.
Yeah, it was pretty out of it stuff. I can imagine.
I might have to watch it. Do you have to buy it from?
Yeah, it's like $35 on his website. You go on his website and you buy it.
Or I can try YouTube, and I'm sure someone will have got clips. But he is. I love watching him interact with the crowd.
Yeah.
So he's ruthless, man.
He is ruthless. And
ruthless.
I appreciate it because I appreciate if he does want to go to mainstream, and he does all the stuff himself.
We'll see.
The action of telling "fuck you" to Netflix, you're not gonna let me.
We'll see, because I think I think you may do it once, and then you have to remember these are big, powerful companies. They probably know how to fucking manage it, and I think what people realize very quickly is trying to go solo on trying to get shit out. Probably not as effective. But I don't know. He could just not give a shit anymore and be like, no, if whatever I get, I get. As long as I get, the true essence of my special out, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So who knows? I might have to find out.
Look, man, we just did 3 hours.
Like it's just like about 5 minutes, really, isn't it? I appreciate being here, brother. Oh man.
Before we go, I just want to say thank you to you because you introduced me to my newest movie director. I'm gonna watch all of his films that he brings out. Ari Aster. You know Ari Aster? He's the director for Midsommar.
Oh, yep.
He also did Hereditary.
Hereditary, man. Hereditary was the first one I watched.
Yeah.
I pissed my fucking pants, bro. I pissed my pants.
His movies, I love it. I love his horror. It's scary, man. Honest, I haven't been traumatized. You know what?
It's traumatizing. It's exactly that.
It's traumatizing.
It's traumatizing.
Oh my God. It's not jump scares. It's not none of the traditional way you feel when you watch a horror.
It's worse.
It's fucking worse, man.
It's like, the lead up to a jump scare. That's the entire movie. It's a lead up, and you're waiting for something. You're like, please, just put me out of my fucking misery. It never happens.
No.
So that's Hereditary, and then you have the fucking Midsommar, which you just know it's a bad fucking idea to be there. The music is fucking weird, and then when you watch it back, you can see them slowly getting high, like how they're man.
And he foreshadows your heart out, and you still fucking watch it and scared. But the thing I like about his movies, it is traumatizing because that's why I love horror movies. I love horror movies because it makes you feel differently than what any other movie can make you feel. And I'm talking about the reaction you get because jump scares and all that shit. You can't even sit still in your chair. No other action movie can do that. No, drama or romance or any other genre can't do that by horror. But this hits different, man. His movies
it's a different horror.
It's fucking different, man.
You know what he does really well? He gets you sucked in because you're not sure what's happening most of the time. Like the story is so good, and it makes you so curious about what's fucking happening. And it just keeps taking you down this pathway, and then it just progressively just traumatizes you, and you just continue to watch it still. You just continue to watch it still, and you're like, I am feeling very unsafe right now, but I need to know what happens at the end of this
He
fucking
does
movie.
that to you. He does that to you.
Hereditary scared the shit out of me, man. Like
Oh.
the whole, just the entire thing, just the setup, how he portrayed the environment, even the music, the lighting,
The music, the fucking imagery. You know
The
that
imagery.
scene when the firemen in the house turning off the car, and that shot when the camera's going down the hallway, you see the sister's dead body on the side, but the camera's going towards the computer screen, and you can see the off to the side.
So it doesn't make it obvious, right?
No.
Oh, just
But the whole hose going into her mouth. Hey,
you know,
remember?
you know what
Shit,
freaked me out
that is
was when the mom started to get possessed, and then like there's different shots of him sort of sitting up in the bed, and then if you don't catch it, you don't see it, but she's like fucking there on the wall. I'm getting fucking goosebumps right now just fucking thinking about it. You know, if it really did, man, I try to block that shit out. It's
But
still
I
bad.
love her Hereditary, the angle he took it, because if you think about the whole story, it's a cult, right? It's a cult, and all it is just the cult trying to get to the end game.
Yeah, the whole thing was a setup. The
whole
thing
thing's
was
set up to get to the end game.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of, I don't know if you watched them, because I read this little thing about the background of how he made the movie. It was because one of his favorite horror movies when he was a kid was Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, yeah.
Rosemary's Baby is a similar sort of storyline where you have a cult thinking that the baby's the son of Satan.
Yeah.
So that cult, he used that cult, same sort of cult in Hereditary to do that same.
Yeah,
kind
but
of
he
thing.
fucked it up so much,
fucked
man.
it up, man.
He like just the whole, you know, even like the minor things, like everyone being naked, you know, and that guy that was smiling all the time, like that almost looked like an albino almost, but he just showed up at random scenes, you know, and you'd think, oh, it's just there to freak us out. No, that motherfucker was there the whole time. No, he was there. He was probably orchestrating it all. You know, and then there's the music and the build up, and he comes to the clubhouse, to the treehouse, and then it's just fucking everyone's there. Everyone's fucking there, and then they're all naked and they're all standing around, and you're fucking pissing yourself in your seat. It's like, oh my god, what did I just watch? Fucking Geo.
His new one's coming out later this year.
I'm probably not gonna watch it, to be honest with you.
Really?
I'm so I watched Hereditary first because my friend Josh, he when he came over, he said we should watch Hereditary, and he fucking just really he didn't really sell it to me. Just like, we should just watch it. Fucking freaked the shit out of me, the motherfucker. And then someone was it my sister or someone told me about Midsummer. It's this. Oh, actually, it might have been just Josh. He told me about, this is, there's another one that the director, you should watch that too. And I didn't get around to it probably until maybe a year later. Then I watched it and I was like, why did he make me watch this shit? It's good. Like don't get me wrong, it is good. Like, it did whatever it needed to do. It succeeded 100%, But holy shit, man, like to still get the same feeling now,
Yeah, it sticks in your.
It's still like
sticks there.
The certain aspects of it was just like so fun.
I rewatch it.
No.
I rewatch it. Honestly, I rewatch Hereditary, the end part.
Yeah,
I rewatch it
that's
just to,
freaky, man.
because I'm past the freakiness now, and I'm just watching it just to remember how I felt, but it doesn't come back to me.
No. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed my my suggestion. I forgot how that came through, because that was a while back that I told you about Midsummer, didn't I?
Yeah, I think that was your first appearance here.
Yeah,
as I was here. We're talking about that forest in the States where all the the Freemasons go and do the ritual.
Right.
Something.
Something
It came on that Netflix show with Kevin Spacey. What's it called? The political one. It came on there.
Ace of House of Cards.
House of Cards.
Ace of Base.
Yeah. and you brought up Midsummer because of that.
Because
scene.
of the the whole cult.
Yeah, the whole
God.
cult thing.
I apologize.
In the forest.
I apologize. Oh man.
Nah, man.
That's-
Cheers, bro.
oh,
Thanks for
been amazing.
Thanks for this, man.
It's been amazing. All right, brother. Get me on for number 4 so that I can be the most featured. That's my goal.
You got it.
That's my
You
goal.
got it. All right.
Cheers, brother.
Bye.